Woohoo! All right, you guys, I'm back. It's David. I've got wild and crazy hair. I've got nice, fresh clothes. You guys are all betting on the shirt. You say burgundy shirt, black shirt, purple shirt, pink shirt, Solar Bear. Got the first guess, or maybe he just saw the live stream. But anyway, I'm here, you guys. It has been quite a week. I got sleep last night and the night before, but this smoke, dude, it really knocked me out. So how are you guys doing? Let's see where you're. Sammy Brown says, when I close my eyes, I see the most amazing greens lately. I've been taken from my bed almost every night. Robert Vent Digital says, Austria. Winnie Hellebus says, hello, nice to see you again. Michelle Feltman says, hi from Missouri. Wow, the first donation has already come in, and we broke ground at $200. Seska Matilda, can you comment on what will happen to our pets when the ascension occurs? Okay, look, this is an interesting concept because Michael has told us, Archangel Michael, that's the channel that I work with, has said that we're going through a first wave of ascension that is non-catastrophic. You will still be yourself. Your pets are going to be alive. Everything's going to be fine. So later on, there's going to be a big 4D shift. Your pets will probably turn into humans at that point, but that's 100 to 700 years away. Charlie Winter, happy Sunday, everyone. And we got $250 from Richard Whitney, but let's not wash out Charlie Winter first. Happy Sunday, everyone. I hope your week went well. Looking forward to some time with the family of David this afternoon. Woo! God bless. And then Richard Whitney, $250. Thank you, David, for your strength and dedication, love, and light. Beverly Adams says some super chats have come in before the live stream starts. Let's see if I can find those. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for anybody that did do that. Oh, yeah, there was, let's see, what do we have here? It looks like we got everybody. So the only ones I'm showing are the ones that we've already said. I scrolled over, but, we're good. What's up, David, says Sydney Mansfield. Linda Kiesling says pink with lots of hearts. Daniela Rosenrot, great to see you, David. Wowee, greetings from Germany. Frequency 963, my late cat has definitely deserved her chance of morphing into a human with the amount of energy she's had to help me transmute in her days under my care while I was doing the Dark Night of the Soul. Don't I know that one? Tarlo-chan Dillon says, always great to listen to share your great insights, dear David. Wonderful and brightly lit as always. Stay shining greatly and in divine service. Hey everyone, David, I love your content and everything you do. Takes lots of research and time to put it up, says Joe Lee. 47 rolled out pre-crime on DC. Is this what you were hoping for? How is it a good thing? Esteline Westby says that. Okay, look, I know that it might look scary. They told us that the final stages of the plan were going to be scary. I do believe that this is a precursor to the arrest scenario that we've been taking place in. I mean, look, I wouldn't get too worried about this because we've already heard that the final stage of the plan is going to involve some type of troops and some type of, police presence that is military based. And we're seeing that happen now. So nothing at all is outside of what we were told to look for or to expect. And for that same reason, I would say, don't worry about it. It's all going to be good. William says, hey, hit the like button for David. I would totally agree. Please do that. Smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. That really also helps us out. We are at over 500,000 subscribers. And I just want to say again how much I love you guys. It's like my family. You guys really are a great family for me to have. And you show up. We've already got 1,821 viewers in just less than 5 minutes. That's extraordinary. Military is the only way, says Jackie Canella. That is absolutely right. So we're not going to be... Yep, Daniela Rosenroth, the real big events are all going to start with military tribunals. Hit the like button if you like Angry Daddy. Now, David, I don't know what the hell is going on here. You didn't even bring my glasses down today, son. But you're out there saying this military in the streets is a good thing? Oh my God. I just can't understand how you get all caught up in these arcane, wild, crazy conspiracy theories, boy. You didn't give me any glasses, David. Maybe you'll have to go get me some after your break. But man, enough is enough, David. Would you just pump the brakes on that a little bit, please? Would you please stop trying to say this is a good thing? It's freaking terrifying. All right. I understand that's how I have had it. Yeah, I was using those glasses, so I don't have the Angry Daddy glasses. That was an oversight on my part. Now you guys are all laughing and smiling. David, you just got to get it through your head that these conspiracy theories are just a bunch of bunk. Sooner or later, you're going to see it like Daddy does, and you're going to be scared out of your goddamn mind. I know some people don't like when I say goddamn, but that's what Daddy would always say. So, I have had it! Yeah. It's all good. It's comedy gold. Thank you very much for saying that. We have 2 donations that just came in. B-Boy InGen, $50. We love your time loops and teachings. Beverly Adams, we will be healed and it will be controlled in a military manner. Excerpt from my dad's 2014 deathbed prophecy. Still hope to chat with you someday. Yes, that was a really good one. We did read that on the air, and it really did hit the nail on the head. They love Angry Daddy. I have had it. That's what I've been feeling like lately. I have had it. The Brunson case was just featured on mainstream news. We'll need the military video on my channel from yesterday. Much love to everyone. Thanks for the healing prayers last week. You all helped, says Tej E. Never underestimate the power of group focus. The people's grand juries are coming back. All right, yes. Everything is good. We're in a good place. And I am really excited because we are making very tangible progress towards peace. And unless you're crazy, I think this is pretty much what everybody wants, right? We don't want to be blown up, because remember, there's all this angst in the collective consciousness. We have 2 really scary wars that are going on at the same time. We've got Ukraine and we've got Israel, and both of them, you know, they said they want to do a ground invasion. That was all telegraphed, but it hasn't happened yet. And that's another interesting thing, right? You hear about these scary things that might happen. You can panic at your leisure, but then maybe they don't, you know? So let's make sure I got all my lights on. Yeah, everything's good. The set is looking good. It's different when I've got the white, when I got the lighter colored shirt on. This shirt just blows out the whole focus meter on it looks totally white on the camera. I have a reference monitor above the screen. It looks totally white. So I believe this is what everybody wants. Michael is continuing to tell us in this week's time loop that the plan is right on schedule. Now, what do I mean by Michael? Well, again, if you're new to the show, if you haven't heard this before, back in the 1990s, I was dictating words through telepathic remote viewing techniques, and that created these tapes right here and others like them from 1996 through 2000. Now, what do I mean by dictating with remote viewing? What I mean is that I learned from a guy named Joe Mason in 1996 on the top UFO guy in the world back then was Richard C. Hoagland. The top show was Art Bell. So Richard would get 20 million listeners on Art Bell's show, which is basically impossible now for anybody except Joe Rogan, I guess. But maybe there's a couple other influencers that are doing that many. But again, Coast to Coast was the nation's #1 nighttime talk radio program. And so Richard C. Hoagland was out there talking about things like that there's a face on Mars, really wild, interesting stuff, the face on Mars, the monuments of Mars, that there were pyramids out there, and that they all had this weird alignment with each other that looked like sacred geometry. You guys are still laughing about the Angry Daddy. Thank you very much for that. So yes, I'm getting suggestions about who I should talk to. I'm seeing those. Thank you for saying that. I do appreciate your suggestions. Anyway, back to the show. The point is that we have a really interesting thing going on. Richard C. Hoagland had analyzed the alignments of the monuments of Mars and found out that they had geometry between them. Like, for example, there is a face on Mars. There's pyramids right near the face. And these relationships between the face and the pyramids, there was another object called the Tolus that looks like a UFO, really, like a flying saucer. and there's a 19.5 degree angle between the bottom of the Ptolus, and then you draw the lines out of the Ptolus to the face and the pyramids. It's 19.5 degrees. That's just one of many. 19.5 degrees latitude is where Mars has a shield volcano called Olympus Mons. And Hoagland's main theory was that there are unseen, mysterious, energetic forces flowing through planets as they rotate that create this tetrahedral geometry. This is not a physical structure per se. This is an energetic matrix that shows up as spiraling energy. Let's go up really close here. Spiraling energy that comes off of these tips, and it's actually gravity. So if it's underneath the Earth, it's going to show up as Hawaii. Hawaii is at 19.5. It's swirling the magma. There's some kind of current or force that's causing this to happen, to swirl the magma. It creates Hawaii. These volcanoes burst up because magma is liquid magma under the Earth is swirling and bursting out at these points. And then on Mars, you have the same thing. You have Olympus Mons, this gigantic shield volcano, and it's 3 times larger than Mount Everest, and it's at the 19.5 degree latitude. And it's also, interestingly enough, exactly 180 degrees away longitude from the face on Mars. And of course, a triangle cuts a circle into 3 pieces of, or no, not 180 degrees. I'm sorry. It's 120 degrees, right? Because 3 times 120 is 360. So 120 degrees away from the face on Mars, you go to the next part of the tetrahedron, and now you've got the Olympus Mons shield volcano. So Richard Hoagland was the man. That hyperdimensional physics stuff I'm talking about goes very deep. We've talked about it extensively. These invisible vibrational fields, the geometry that I'm showing you can be created by vibration. So now we're back into an idea that the universe is actually made of a loving, conscious energy, and that conscious energy flows through these predetermined geometric points. And it turns out it's not just planets. It's also in the quantum realm. We talked about that extensively. The nucleus of the atom, the electrons of the atom. Our Earth has a global grid that doesn't just feature the tetrahedron. It also features other geometries like the icosahedron, the dodecahedron, which, you know, this is basically like the pentagonal face of the dodecahedron. It's 12 pentagons that then form into like a soccer ball. We've talked about that before. This also has the engram, all these other mandala type of patterns. Why did people see mandalas when they were meditating? Why did they meditate on mandalas? Because this energy of geometry is also apparently how our thoughts are formed. And there's a very, very interesting study that we've talked about before regarding the consciousness geometry of the mind and how that geometry, when you're actually thinking that there's groups of neurons that fire off at the same time in different places. Normally we think it's just a synapse, that there's a dendrite and then there's a axon, and the dendrites are connected to other brain cells, and that there's a chemical secretion across the gap that causes you to have a neural firing. Well, we're getting multiple areas of neural firings all happening simultaneously in these geometric patterns in the brain, and this was totally verified scientifically, as I've said in my shows before. Nathan Nall says, "Shalom, David. Your time in Colorado has come to an end. Your place is in Sedona. I agree. You record a new album, and Elizabeth will love you once more, and you will father many children." Well, Elizabeth and I are getting along great now. But you know, thank you for that. We're just talking, but yeah, it's all good. There's nothing bad going on. We're in a great place. David, your eyes look tired. Well, yeah, because I hardly slept at all this week, you guys. It's been pretty crazy what I've been through. So sorry if I look tired, but you know, there's a very good reason for that. Because again, I had a crazy week due to the heat and to the wildfires. It was too hot to close the doors and the windows in the house. And as a result, you know, because the house has no air conditioning, so I had to inhale smoke to be able to stay cool enough in bed. And yes, as you just noted, it caused really bad insomnia all week. So as a result, I'm still tired, and this is going to be a shorter show. However, I did finally get good sleep again these last 2 nights. So I'm feeling much better. So again, back to 1996. Richard C. Hoagland was the top guy on Art Bell. I was really into the face on Mars, the geometry. I saw that his geometry was right. I believed it was right, and that things are going to go a lot farther. Beverly Adams donated $50. Woo! She says, we are the med beds, energy healers. People need to understand this is coming. You will do greater things than I, said Jesus. That's John 14:12. I am not just a deep tissue massage therapist. I'm a light energy worker, and the miracles have already begun. Yes, absolutely. So things are good. You know, we're in a good place here. I'm happy to be here today. And thank you guys for being here. Again, when I was listening to Art Bell, it wasn't just Richard C. Hoagland. He was also totally obsessed with remote viewing. And he brought on different people like Ed Dames and Dr. Courtney Brown. Courtney Brown wrote a book called Cosmic Voyage, describing how these military remote viewers were taking nothing more than just a name of like coordinates, like random numbers that they would assign to a particular target, like the Fort Meade, Maryland septic treatment facility. So they were treating sewage in Fort Meade, Maryland, and they'd send these people out there. You'd lie down in a bed, you'd meditate, you'd get these coordinates, you don't know what they're for. In this case, let's say it's the sewage plant. And then you're supposed to document all the stuff that comes into your mind when you get into a very deep state of meditation, mind awake, body asleep. You document every thought that you're having, and you write it down, and you start seeing visual images, and you sketch those. That's why it's called remote viewing, because you're lying in a bed, but now you go over somewhere else that they're telling you to go to. You have a guide, and he doesn't know. It's double blind, so he doesn't know what the target is either. But your guide sends you to wherever it is, and he asks you, okay, move up, go to the left. Do you notice anything? Do you smell anything? Well, yeah, it smells really bad. I don't know. It smells pretty horrible. And then eventually what will happen is that sometimes people achieve full contact with the target. They become aware, you know, this really does look like it's a sewage treatment plant. I don't know why I'm here, but that seems to be what's going on. Yep, you get done. Oh my God, it was the sewage treatment plant in Fort Meade, Maryland. So this is not normal stuff. I mean, this is not stuff you hear on the media. This is not stuff you typically hear about on television. The media doesn't really want us to know that we have these powers. But again, the craziest part about this is that Art Bell is bringing people on saying they're getting 99% accurate remote viewing. Even if it's totally blind and you don't know what the numbers mean, your guide doesn't know what the numbers mean, they send you in once you're trained. They used these techniques they developed from various psychics who were very, very accurate. And sure enough, you get these incredible results. So Dr. Courtney Brown's book, Cosmic Voyage, had Appendix 2 at the back where he teaches you how to do this. And I used those protocols and I modified them for voice because in 1996, I was on Richard C. Hoagland's discussion forum and I met a guy there named Joe Mason. And Joe Mason was using something very similar to remote viewing, but he was getting voices instead of visual images, which would be more like clairaudience instead of clairvoyance. And he called it the dream voice. And so I combined Joe Mason's dream voice protocol with the remote viewing protocols. And the next thing you know, I start bringing in long sentences, sentence after sentence after sentence. I started to dictate them into tapes on this tape recorder, as I've said before. You guys already know this, but just for somebody who's new, this was the tape recorder I was using. You throw the cassette in here, you pop it down, you hit record, and you just start talking. Whatever you hear is what you say. 2,834 viewers at 19 minutes. This is great. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm so glad you're here to stay with me today for this show because it's really exciting. We're getting so close. So this is how it all started. I got lured in by Art Bell, Richard C. Hoagland. I wanted the remote viewing to work. I found out later from Pete Peterson, Dr. Pete Peterson, who worked at Area 51, many other places like that. He was involved in the remote viewing. And Peterson said that, yes, people can do this technique and they will get verbal messages that will be coming from these Christian angels. The government didn't like that. The military didn't like that back then. So they made it so that you can't bring in verbal data. They don't want you to listen. They don't want you to write down or dictate what you're hearing in words. They screened it all out. The protocols were designed so that you can only do it for visual images. And you can use things like your pen. You push the pen down to try to feel something, and you can get a sense of touch. What does something feel like? Is it soft and fluffy? Is it wet? Is it dry? Is it hard? Is it metallic? That's one of the things they do. You probe with your pen. But they would not let you get verbal data, interestingly enough. So I started doing that because Joe Mason told me about the dream voice. And then all these tapes come through. And the tape begins identifying itself as some sort of higher consciousness. Just like Pete said, it ended up being a Christian being. It said it was Archangel Michael. So that's really how this all got started. I became aware that Archangel Michael had contacted me, that I was getting prophecies. That's the other thing. I'd have this, this is actually some of the real tapes. So I'd have a stack of tapes like this on my desk. They might be a month old. I'd go in there, I'd start transcribing them, and then they would describe, the voice would describe what was happening right before I transcribed the tape. So like, I went to see the new Star Wars movie, I sit down, the dream is immediately describing things from the new Star Wars movie. I see a little girl who's got this, you know, little toy, a Tamagotchi. It's a little orange toy where you're supposed to feed this bird. And if you don't feed the bird, it eventually dies. Well, I saw her at the convenience shop playing with that thing. Next thing you know, I go home, start transcribing my next tape. Boom, there's the little girl with the orange thing. And there were dazzling amounts of prophecies happening in the early days, but it turns out that was just the prelude. I did this work from 96 to 2000. It was very interesting, very prophetic, but a lot of it didn't make sense. It was very encrypted, very encoded, and I ended up kind of letting go of all of it by 2004. I began, by 2005 really, is where I just said, no, I'm not going to mess with this Archangel Michael stuff anymore, the readings anymore. Bonnie Demlong sending love, light, and energy to you. Thank you very much. 2,885 viewers now. We're doing really great today. So yeah, it really was something where most of the data didn't make sense. Most of it was encrypted. It didn't really, you know, I tried to have a study group. We were trying to read the readings. People weren't that excited about it because they just didn't, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. It wasn't really just feel-good curiosity feeding, beads and sandals spirituality. It was very encrypted, and a lot of it made no sense at all. Cut to after my divorce in 2021, or right around that time as it was happening. Next thing you know, I start to go back and reread these transcripts, which I really hadn't even looked at all since probably 2004. It's probably the last time I'd ever looked at them. So then in 2021, I start reading them again, and I'm like, oh my God, it's talking about COVID. It's talking about 47. It's talking about Biden. It's talking about all this stuff that I didn't even know about back then, this plan from the Alliance. And so the final stage of the plan is to expose that there is a dark group running the world. Now, what is the Alliance? I didn't even learn about the Alliance until 2009. But Michael talks about it all the time in the 1990s. So my conclusion is that the remote viewing that we got was real, that this being is real. It's extremely exciting and very, very contentious. You know, like this is not normal data. My data is extremely bizarre because okay, first of all, what is Archangel Michael? It's supposedly the highest angel in God's pantheon, Jesus's pantheon, specifically tasked with defeating Satan. No big deal, huh? Wow. So what is the Alliance? The Alliance is a group in the military and the intelligence community that came out in the 1950s with the understanding that there was a very weird, very negative, evil group running the planet. What did they do about it? They created something called the plan. Now, what is the plan? The plan is the idea that over time, and they knew it might take decades, that they would build a public awareness about something the media is never going to tell you. You're never going to hear about this group. You're never going to hear about what they're really up to or how dangerous it really has been for us, that these people actually are trying to create mass death. They would like to see a majority of everybody on Earth not here anymore. And that's very heavy. So there is an opposition to this, but it's been going on very, very covertly. They've had to be working in great secrecy. You're not going to hear about this on television. You're not going to hear about this in magazines, newspapers in general. In fact, you have to really be diligent to find out anything about this. So I started to talk about it in 2009 when I got briefed on it. And we always heard that the final stage of what they call the plan, a 5-inch thick binder they created, would be that there would be a bunch of people who have to be arrested at the same time. You can't do it one by one because they're too powerful, and they'll stop you from doing it one by one. You got to do it all at once. And so we were told from 2009, the briefings I got, that this would involve a mass blackout, perhaps, or at least an internet blackout, that there would be emergency message systems coming on your phone while it still had charge, and that these would be videos that would tell you the truth. And you would find out that these people were involved in really, really bad stuff, and that now they've been arrested, and there are going to be trials and tribunals that would happen. So I was talking about that publicly ever since 2009. As you probably know, if you're watching the show, we're now over 3,000 viewers. We're at 3,088. So it's very, very exciting because we're going to get our planet back, you see. We're not going to live this way anymore. We're not going to be so depressed and miserable and sad anymore because it turns out that our money has been stolen and we're all going through all this anxiety about the end of the world. That's just kind of a common state that everybody is in right now. So we also were told that, you know, the final stage before they do these arrests would be some type of military presence in the streets, and that would be a precursor to this event. Well, that's already happening in D.C. right now. There's troops on the ground in D.C. Therefore, I can honestly say that it appears we are very, very close to the final stage of the plan. And what also makes this interesting is that Archangel Michael, in the time loop that we've been doing, makes specific references to the plan this week. Now, what is the Archangel Michael time loop? Well, first of all, if you go to my website, thedisclosure.com, right now on that site, you will see that we have a product for sale, which is the 7 Michael Prophecies books. So beginning in 2022, I began unsealing all of these readings. I'd never even really reread them. I would chunk them out in remote viewing trance, and then when I transcribed them, I'd be in trance, and then I'd just post them on the internet. So I never really read them. I never really used my analytical mind that much. I just kind of got it out and put it on my website, and I was done. Well, we now have 7 books of material that is just so dazzling because every one of them has red-lined passages of Michael's words on basically almost every page in all 7 books, and they're all about 500 pages each. One of them's a little bit shorter, but not by much. So, like, each of the red-line passages is prophetic. So I've never really unsealed all that stuff before, so we are getting ready to do a new course for you guys called The Great Awakening. And I really, really hope you'll step up and support us on this new launch. It's going to be a paid product again. I will give you details. We're working it all out. You know, the sleep loss that I had this week was severe. I had to spend a lot of time in bed. I couldn't get as far along with this as I wanted to. But we are going to be doing a product called Michael's Greatest Hits as part of a greater product called The Great Awakening. There's going to be 2 parts to it. The Michael's Greatest Hits, I'm actually going to go through those 7 books for the first time, and I'm actually going to read you about 20 or more passages from each book that I feel are the most highly prophetic, the most highly amazing. So you're going to get a full overview of what the greatest and most shocking prophecies are in all 7 books. And I'm going to be interviewing Pete Peterson's protege, Chris Beskar, who is the founder of Stavati Aerospace. So that's another thing that's going on. I have an aerospace company, and this is one of our products. This is the SM-39. It's going to be the fastest jet ever made when we release it. Now, why in the world is David doing jets? Why is David doing an aerospace company? Because I was dealing with people who worked at Area 51 or other places like that, And they were telling me that in these bases and in these programs that you have open contact with different types of extraterrestrials in these underground military bases and off planet. Apparently, the real situation on Earth is much different than we think. We're living in an illusion. Extraterrestrials have already been here. They've already been working with our military. They don't talk to us yet, but for some reason, the rules of the universe do allow them to meet up with people in the military in these secret underground facilities. And the military has developed exotic technology. They've developed UFOs that actually work. And supposedly, Chris Beskar was involved in that. There's a lot of things that he can't talk about. But so one part of the Great Awakening course that we're going to be coming out with is, again, all 7 of the Michael Prophecies books. We're going to go through and do Michael's greatest hits, and we're going to read the best prophecies from each one. But then the other part of the product is that we're going to do a 7-week course with Chris Beskar. It's also included in the same purchase price. And that 7-week course, we're going to go through all of the top insiders that I've spoken to about this Area 51 secret space program, off-planet community. And Chris has a lot of things that he knows that he can't quite say directly yet, but we can talk around it by talking about what other people said, and then he's going to make a lot of really interesting allusions. So never before in my entire life have I taken all of the different inside data from all these different whistleblowers about what's going on in Area 51, what's going on Mars, is there a base on Mars, are there extraterrestrials there? For example, Henry Deacon told us that he would park in a parking lot at a military base in Great Britain. He would then, walk into the base and get to a very secure area where he'd go through something called the corridor. You had to verify your identity. It's this big round corridor. At the end of the corridor, there was an elevator. You have they don't want to make a psychological impact on you, so you have an ordinary key. You put your ordinary key in the ordinary lock, and then you turn the key and the elevator doors close. And when they close and then reopen, now you're on Mars. And it wasn't apparently just Mars now, it was Mars in the future or in the past. I'm not even sure which one. I think it was in the past, that the base actually existed in the past. So that's pretty provocative, and we're going to go, and he said that there was 200,000 personnel working on this base and only 20,000 of them were people from Earth. That's pretty wild. So I've got, well over a dozen of these insiders who really, really fleshed out all this worldview for us. And this is going to be the first time in Great Awakening that I'm taking all of these different inside testimonies. We're putting them all together in linear order. And then we're going to talk through it. We're going to talk about what they said. Chris is going to reveal as much as he's allowed to reveal. It will be the greatest disclosure of weird classified UFO data we've ever done. And it is going to be, again, a paid product called The Great Awakening. I've got a lot more description about it in the comments below this. I'm sorry, not the comments, but in the description for today's live stream. You can go in there and read that. So Roger Zubarik says, count me in. I'm looking forward to the new product. Thank you very much, Roger. Vacapalo says, I'm watching you now at double speed to catch up. LOL. I don't know how you could do that. Let's see if I missed. Oh, we got a bunch of other ones I didn't catch here. Bonnie Demlong sending love and light and energy to you. Pillars and Strategies says, hi, David. What's up with the former NASA scientist Bergrun saying he saw 7-foot aliens, tall and black like African Americans? They exited the craft as extraterrestrial muscular warrior class. Yes, I mean, that's part of what we're going to be talking about is that kind of stuff. And I do believe there's all different races of people represented in the human ETs we see. That's one of the things everybody keeps saying is that they're surprisingly human. Most of the extraterrestrials are actually human. Vicky Crew Fuller, I heard in the state you are describing a trumpet sounding, like the start of a horse race. We are very much on the edge. Roger Zubarik said, your input is so refreshing. Thank you. Glad to see all is working as planned. Jacob J. Allman says, g'day, Colin McGeeza, mate. Just want to make sure I got all your donations in. Beverly Adams, we are the medbeds. Okay, we got that one. Thank you, everybody, for donating. That is so awesome. I really, really appreciate your help. LTJ, hey David, thank you for turning up every week to guide and teach us. We've been following you around 10 years. We wish we could come see you in America. Excited for your next course. Love and light from your UK family, LTJ, Little Tiny Joe. All right. Many truthers say debt forgiveness is coming. I find no evidence when I research this. Any insight? Yes, we've always heard that there was a plan to, I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but some kind of a plan to make sure that people become wealthy again. So look, we're going to find out that there is this extraterrestrial community. So again, it's called The Great Awakening, and next week I hope to be able to launch it for you guys. We'll have more details on the next show. It'll really, really help me out. I definitely do need to raise funds in order to just stabilize my life, and so you stepping up and being interested in this, in the greatest hits of the 7 Michael Prophecies books, and in this other thing we're doing, Great Awakening, talking about we're going to do all of the top UFO inside stories in one course. I've never done that before. It's going to be very, very informative. There's going to be lots of new things. You're going to be dazzled when you see this. So thank you in advance for stepping up and helping me, and I really hope that you will actually do this and not just think somebody else is going to do it, but that you personally, you watching this show right now, will step up and help me, because I really do need your help. It's going to make my life so much better once I have that extra money. So thank you in advance for that. All right. So again, beginning in 2020, what was it? 2022, I started to do the Michael Prophecies books. 2022 and 23, that's all I did is write those 7 books, and they are amazing. Now I'm finally going to go through all the greatest hits from them in that course, Great Awakening. Then it wasn't until I went to Canada last September that we had new Michael time loops show up. There's 21 tapes in this box that I had missed in the Michael books because I just, they were in a different collection. I knew that stuff was missing, but I didn't realize how significant that was. And so coming up in September, we're now going to be 1 year. We're almost basically every single week. I don't think I've missed a single one. Every single week for a year now, if you've been watching this show, we have dreams that I dictated, and we have readings from Archangel Michael, and they're predicting the final countdown to the mass arrests, to this global awakening that's going to result. Because apparently, again, there's going to be martial law. We're seeing that now. There's going to be high-profile targets who get arrested, who were involved in this secret group. And then you're going to see tribunals, and apparently the tribunal scenario leads to a disclosure event as well. They're also going to tell us that UFOs are real. We're going to find out that there's angels and demons, that both parts of this story exist. There's angels and demons. Most of the ETs that are out there in the universe are good. And one of the people we're going to talk about in Great Awakening is Sergeant Clifford Stone. He was involved in UFO crash retrievals, and that they found a total of 57 different varieties of ETs in the craft. They called them the Heinz 57, like the ketchup. And the majority of all 57 species that are visiting the Earth look human. There's apparently only 6 of them that are evil. They're called the Unholy Six in some of these early 1950s books connected to W.B. Smith. He's one of our whistleblowers. You'll see that again if you read in the description for this video. You'll see the description of some of the insiders we're going to be talking about. The Unholy Six include reptilians, greys, and insectoids. And those are the ones that are really evil. And they have a very different agenda. Wherever they go, to any planet they go, they create Satanism. And yes, it involves all the classical elements that you would think of. Ritual magic, pentagram on the ground, candles, robes, masks, chanting, etc., etc., etc. And they apparently have discovered that this works. It uses laws of spirituality, and you end up seeing a manifestation of some sort of lower astral negative entity. Really, really weird and scary stuff, but that's definitely part of what's going on here. It's very interesting. So how do you tell the world that there are extraterrestrials that exist that are evil, and that they have created this thing that people on Earth have followed because it gives them money, it gives them fame, it gives them power? How do you tell people that? How do you tell people that they were trying to destroy the population? How do you tell people that they were trying to enslave us? That they wanted us to be digital zombies with nanotech that's going to control how you think and act, and you now become like the Borg? That all those kinds of sci-fi things going back to 2001, the artificial intelligence becomes evil, how the evil AI, you know, it kills everybody on the Odyssey in the movie 2001. The AI did that. Except for David Bowman, he was able to defeat the AI. Turns out that apparently in the secret projects, they've discovered that AI is real and that there is a predatory negative AI and that it microchips and uses nanites to control these grays, these reptilians, and these insectoids. That they are actually digital slaves of a very negative AI that wants all biological life destroyed. If you are a biological life form, it hates you. And so its ultimate goal apparently is to destroy all life. And it apparently already destroyed a planet in our solar system. That's one of the things we're going to talk about in the Great Awakening. The exploded planet hypothesis. What is the asteroid belt? Why is there a place where a planet should be and then there's all these rocks? The comets apparently were the oceans of this planet, and they turned into dirty snowballs. Flash frozen ocean water became a whole bunch of pieces of ice in our solar system, and when they fly through our atmosphere, they become comets. So again, the Great Awakening is going to be terrific. I hope you'll sign up for that. It's going to teach you so many things. It's going to be really the most definitive course I've ever done on this subject, and I think now is the time. So again, Michael's prophecies have been time looped every week for a whole year now, and all we've done is go through 6 months at the beginning of 1999. And it was only a few months ago, or no, only like several weeks ago, that we jumped out of the 21 new tapes and got back into what's now, I guess, Michael Prophecies Book 5 out of a total of 7. But even in Book 5, I left out a lot of things. I omitted most of the dreams. I omitted readings that I thought were personal at the time or didn't seem as relevant. Whereas now we're going through them much more meticulously, step by step, and we're bringing it all out to you. So, dude, I'm so excited. I mean, all I can say is, like, the future is very bright. We have an incredible situation going on here because the Michael prophecies come through. Again, I did the remote viewing in the 1990s. Having no idea that this stuff was going to become so relevant later on. It's dazzling, frankly. It's really dazzling material. And so what we learn is, from Archangel Michael, that yes, there's this whole negative side. There's an AI, it's evil, it's controlling negative beings, etc., etc. But again, what did I say? Most of the Heinz 57 are human-looking, positive extraterrestrials. Now, there's a difference between a fourth density and a fifth density extraterrestrial. Let's make that point clear. Fourth density extraterrestrials, according to the spiritual basis that all my work is built off of, the Law of One, it was also done with remote viewing from 81 to 83, built off of the original pioneering techniques of W.B. Smith, who you'll notice in our comments here in the description. He was the first insider on our list we're going to talk about. W.B. Smith in the 1950s found multiple individuals who had telepathic contact with apparently benevolent Christian extraterrestrials. And so they made telepathic contact. You could ask them questions. It was just like what I'm doing. They would give eerily accurate answers. This all goes back again to Edgar Cayce, the psychic from 1877 to 1945, who did 40,000 readings where he was unconscious under hypnosis, and then his body would speak, and sometimes it showed up as Archangel Michael, and it would give people accurate diagnosis of their health problems with no information. All you had to tell him is your name and your address, and be there at that address at the time that your reading was scheduled, and then he would remotely view you. He would diagnose you. He would tell you what was wrong. It was always accurate. And he would prescribe treatments, and then he also got into reincarnation, past lives, that your past life could affect how you feel in this life. It was really dazzling material. Edgar Cayce's works created over 60,000 books that were just phenomenal. It's bigger than any other influencer in modern spiritual history. But there's never been movies made about this. There's never really been a television show made about this. It all stayed as a literary phenomenon that was pretty much confined to books. Let's just make sure. Very nice crispy shirt you have on today, says Michael Duke. Oh, we had another one. Zoran's mom. Why don't you do a pre-order for the course to take a little heat off? Well, we're going to do that, but we got to get to that point too. The Frisian says, God bless you, David. We are so grateful. See if there's anybody else I missed here. Well, no, I got them all now. Okay, great. So anyway, thank you guys again. It's such a privilege and an honor to have what's now 3,600 people listening to me at the 45-minute mark. I know this is weird, okay? Like, I admit, my show is the ultimate low-hanging fruit for trolls. Trolls want to find something that doesn't fit in the cracks, doesn't fit in the boxes of conventional thought. And so if somebody comes out and says extraterrestrials are real and he's talking to angelic beings, they want to laugh at you and they want to ridicule you. So that's part of what I'm up against every week, is the ridicule of just doing something out of the box. But again, you know, this stuff is very interesting. It's very comprehensive. The data really connects. And so with our Great Awakening product, which I hope you'll support us with, we're going to connect the Michael prophecies. We're going to connect the off-world beings, the underground military bases, what all the different insiders have said, all of the top Michael prophecies. So I didn't know what I was doing, you guys. In 1996 through 2000, I was dictating all this stuff. A lot of it didn't make sense. I'm like, okay, whatever. Come to 2022 up to the present, now this has been my whole focus in life, is getting this stuff out there. And it's all talking about the plan of the military alliance, that there's going to be people arrested. There's going to be disclosure. You're going to find out that our military has hover cars, UFOs that they've built. They have anti-gravity. They have free energy. And this negative group on Earth did not want you to have this stuff. Why? Because you wouldn't have to pay for gas. You wouldn't have to pay to heat your house. Life becomes much less expensive once you have free energy. And you're not trapped on Earth once you have anti-gravity. You can fly throughout the cosmos. So those are big, big asks. You know, it's a big ask to expect us to live in this illusion. But most people are trapped in the illusion. They have no idea what's really going on. They have no idea what life on Earth really is. They don't realize that we're being governed. That's another big point. These positive extraterrestrials are not just here to hang out. They are ultimately the lords of karma. When you create negative thought patterns, negative behaviors, it mandates the universe to return that to you. As you sow, so shall you reap. So there's way more intrigue in the world religious teachings than we ever thought. It is actually very important to follow the teachings of Christ, to be of service to others, to love thy neighbor as thyself. This is the underlying harmonic energy of the universe coming to fruition. When you do that, you are ascending. You are actually getting ready to become something new. And so the whole theme of the Michael prophecies is ascension. What is that? It is this concept, again, this is low-hanging fruit for the trolls. They love this kind of stuff. Oh, ha, 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 ha. You think you're going to turn into a superhero. Yeah, that's what all the ancient religions tell us. Graham Hancock in Fingerprints of the Gods summarized 35 ancient prophecies that tell us we're going into a golden age. And you've heard that term before, but it turns out that the term golden age was kind of a cover-up for the real word, which was golden race. We're all going to become light beings. We're all going to have this ascension where we become far more powerful, far more significant, far more exciting than we already were. And we'll have telepathic capability, we'll have psychic capability, we'll be able to levitate, some of us, depending on how far you've gone. Now, most of these 35 ancient prophecies made it sound like there was going to be a pole shift, like the Earth would flip on its axis in order to get this to happen, that there'd be a mass death, mass destruction. I kind of assumed that's the way it was going to go, that it was the biblical rapture, ascension model, where like, okay, yeah, there's tribulation, there's earth changes, there's tsunamis, there's volcanoes, and the only way that you ascend is by being rescued by these cosmic beings that exist and are working in places like Area 51. The good guys, most of the Heinz 57 are the good guys. They are the lords of karma, so they will work behind the scenes. They're not just here to hang out. They're working behind the scenes to help you experience the karma that you create. So if you create negative events, you get negative karma. If you create positive events, you get positive karma. These are universal laws. So there are beings that are actually alive, and they're helping you experience the karma that you need. For example, if you just so happen to meet somebody at the right place at the right time, there might be intelligence behind that. There might be an intelligent being that is making sure that the two of you are influenced by thoughts that you thought were private to get together and talk to each other. And so that's really kind of the basis of how karma works. It also can be bad karma. Like if you end up crashing your car, they might deliberately make you have an accident so that you get your bad karma. So once you understand that this is how it works, you really don't want to mess around with karma. You want to keep yourself as energetically clean as possible, because that's protection. So again, all of this is leading up to Ascension, and we thought it was going to be catastrophic, and it's only really with the Michael prophecies since 2022 that this remote viewing that I did in the 1990s says, no, it's not catastrophic. It's actually going to be everybody on Earth gets to go through this. Almost everybody on Earth, except for maybe the most evil people, apparently are going to experience something called the first wave of Ascension. Michael has been very consistently telling us it's going to happen in this year, 2025. That number, that date shows up in the Michael prophecies, and you better believe that in my course, the Great Awakening, we're going to go through all the instances where 2025 shows up. So you'll have all the specifics of exactly why we believe that this is the date that it's going to be. Michael makes it very precise, and there's going to be a lot of stuff in the Great Awakening about the Alliance, because Michael talks about it in every book. He, they love the letter that you see right here. Okay, that's very important to the Alliance. That letter has to do with military intelligence, and it's also the 17th letter of the alphabet. So they use the number 17 a lot in their coded communications. Guess what? Michael plays around with the number 17 all the time in the Michael prophecies. He talks about the Alliance all the time. And he makes it very, very clear that what we're going to see is a buildup of, first you're going to get the arrests, then you're going to get the tribunals, then you're going to find out that UFOs are real and that higher ETs are real. And at some point, all of this allows us to go through this solar event where the sun gives off energy that changes the way our minds work. And I've been through that extensively. The existing prophecies talk extensively about how your mind is governed by this vibratory energy, and when the energy goes into a higher vibration, your mind starts to pick up new abilities. And you now have psychic ability and all these other things. It can happen, and it will happen, by a non-catastrophic solar change. So we're expecting that it's going to be a visible release of energy from the sun. Michael's been talking about this recently. It's all really heady stuff, man. It's so complex. We're almost up at 4,000 people now at the 53-minute mark. That's terrific. So again, the Alliance is working on this plan that they developed in the 1950s to bring this about. And the plan partly came about through the arrival of a human extraterrestrial named Valiant Thor at the Pentagon. So Valiant Thor came down in a UFO, apparently, and came out looking totally human, not like most of these other extraterrestrials. So let's talk about the differences. You have fourth density, where bodies like ours evolve and you get larger eyes. They don't necessarily look like grays, but the eyes are bigger on the face. They still look human, but they're definitely a more evolved form of human than we are. That's fourth density. And they can evolve out of marine life. They can evolve out of, in some cases, insect life, reptilian life. Some of the negative ones are usually more of that type, but most of the time they evolve out of mammals and they become typical looking, or mostly typical looking humans. When we heard from Henry Deacon and he went to that base on Mars I was telling you about, he said that they had every type of different skin color you can imagine, all the pastel colors of the rainbow, that there's pastel pink, pastel yellow, pastel green. Those would be the skin colors of these humans. Pastel blue, everything you can imagine. So it's very, very interesting. And you can see that I'm very committed to this. I believe this stuff. So like, oh, David, he's crazy. I mean, all this stuff he's saying is just so freaking crazy. Well, no. I mean, this is just where my research has taken me. You know, this is where, make sure I didn't miss any of your donations. Okay, I didn't. So we're good. Anyway, many of us are ready. Beam me up. David's energy is good. My third eye has been tingling much stronger in recent days, says Field Hero Ace. I'm excited to gain some sort of superpowers. How can they be so negative if they are in the fourth dimension, says E. Winner? If and when we ascend, the evil ones get left behind. I don't get it. Okay, that's a very good question. The Law of One says that 4D exists in negative and positive, and 5D exists in negative and positive. So, 4D negative is they're going to a higher level of love, but it's actually the love of self. And then, so it's service to self, service to others. The universe is designed to allow for there to be negative aliens as well as, you know, negative people in our own third dimensional reality. So that's just the way it's designed. They do become more powerful. They do have telepathy. They do have telekinesis, but they're also very evil. They bypass the heart chakra and they go right into opening up the throat chakra, the fifth chakra. So again, this is stuff that, as crazy as all this sounds right now, we're all going to know about it. We're all going to learn about it. It's going to be an amazing awakening that happens. These beings have promised us that they're coming back. So let's talk about fifth density now. Fifth density negative is like the AI. And that AI controls these fourth density negative extraterrestrial beings. But the fifth density negative itself mostly likes to exist as thought because it knows that if it takes on any flesh, that it's subject to the Creator's judgment. It's subject to judgment. So it doesn't want to have to go that route. So instead of taking on flesh, it exists as thought only, and apparently it's some type of AI that is a sentient, conscious being. It can project into a human form. We're going to talk about that in the Great Awakening, that there is an Antarctic palace of Lucifer. Lucifer's palace does exist apparently in Antarctica. People go down and visit that. We're going to cover that. This AI can project itself apparently into a human body that you meet in Lucifer's palace. And so, and the palace is just absolutely incredible. There's no other architecture remotely as amazing looking as this on Earth. So Lucifer's palace is a real thing. Lucifer's a real thing. And they said, you know, the truth is going to put 80% of the people in the hospital, or 99% of the people in the hospital. Well, yeah, it's very strange stuff. We're going to have to get broken into this little by little by little. But it's all coming out. The arrests are coming up. Now, fifth density positive beings, angelic beings, can project into a human form. And so that's the Valiant Thor thing. 1957, this human shows up, and he's talking about Christ and how much he loves Jesus. And he designed the plan that we've been talking about with the military alliance to expose, arrest, and defeat this deep state and thus usher in humanity's ascension. We don't get this consciousness shift until we've all learned the truth about what's going on Earth. And that causes all these people to have a metamorphic awakening. There's a lot of pain involved in this, and many of us are getting that pain now. We're going through the preliminary stages of that painful breaking through. But it does ultimately lead to a very positive outcome, and there's so much pedigree, there's so much work I've done now to set this all up. As you guys know, it's very, very exciting. We're now at 3805 viewers, so coming up on the 58-minute mark. You guys are really showing up today. Thank you so much. Prince Royal, I remember a dream you had, David, about your own palace with some chick trying to escape a teenage party. Well, it's not Lucifer's palace. Vacapalo, is it true there's a gigantic black cube there? I guess there meaning Lucifer's palace. I'm not sure about that, but, you know, we'll find out. I'll ask him that question in the Great Awakening. Will the rapture happen next month, says Quan Hong Chan. I don't know if it's going to be quite that fast, but again, I really don't believe I've been deceived here. It's interesting every week when I do this show to kind of live in this Archangel Michael universe, you know, like, dude, this is really, really weird stuff. I mean, I get it, okay? It's almost embarrassing sometimes telling this story because it's so outside the box of what most people believe to be true. But I'm very consistent. You know, I've been doing this week after week for so long now. We're almost 2 years in of me doing a show every week. And we're a whole year in of the time loop happening where every single Sunday or whenever day I can get it out, that we've got these dazzling messages from Archangel Michael that keep reaffirming this narrative that I'm telling you now. It's a fascinating story. And then we have Art Echo talking about a mass meditation. It would be awesome. Vacapalo, Black Cube in Antarctica. That's what I was just talking about, yeah. So thank you guys for the donations. There's a few nights where I feel like my cat who passed away is sleeping next to me. That's definitely part of this. When are the bad guys going to be arrested? Well, again, looks like it could be very soon. So, you know, I've been through extraordinary difficulty. This last week was very difficult with the smoke and not being able to sleep because of it. And so, you know, it's hard. I'm tired right now. I'm much more tired than I used to be. By the way, I am completely clean and sober. Because of injuries I had before, things I told you guys, you know, I was using occasionally again recently, but I've completely stopped doing that. I hope this time it's going to be the last time. So I'm totally off of all the medication. But, and because I just didn't want anything that would make it harder to sleep. And it seemed like the medication might have been responsible in some ways for why I wasn't having a good time to sleep. Timothy Michael says, brother, I love you. You and me are the same. Looking forward to flying. You've been helping me awaken since 2018, 144,000. All right. John Smith says, the president deploying troops at the Capitol sounds like a trial run to see how the public reacts. Skyheart says, you look tired. Yes, I'm very tired. I've probably never been so tired when I did a show as I am today. I'm really just kind of like exhausted. This whole thing was like an experiment in sleep deprivation. And it seems that even if you don't really sleep if you don't lose consciousness, that if you just lie in bed for like 10 or 11 hours a night and try to sleep, that you're still getting maybe the equivalent of 4 to 5 hours a night. But the last 2 nights I slept really well. I'm definitely going to sleep well tonight. So here's what we're doing. We're going through looking at this Ascension scenario, seeing the big picture, getting excited about it. And then we also track how we're going to get there. And the way we track that is by assuming, okay, there is an alliance. The military intelligence community is something very real. They have awesome power with surveillance, like through the NSA. They have quantum surveillance methods where they can track exactly what the DS is doing. And that would be the state that is deep, right? DS, deep, and then you know the rest. So I have to be certain words I don't want to say, but you know, we talk around it. So there are 2 hidden groups here. There's 3 hidden groups, right? There's the hidden DS, which is again this international coalition that at the highest levels, according to another insider I had, Uncle Jack, and he's going to be in the Great Awakening. We're going to go through all the Uncle Jack stuff, mate. He's Australian. That's why I have the Australian character. It's based on him. So the DS at the tallest levels, at the highest levels, up where the Roth family is involved, they are working directly with these reptilians. And Uncle Jack would talk about having meetings where the reptilians were there, and they're tall, scary-looking reptile humanoids. And they can levitate you and throw you across the room, smash you on the wall if they wanted to. They can get into your mind and control your thoughts and make you do things. They're mean to us. Even the top people in the DS, they're mean to them. They don't like humans at all. You have to bow to them. You have to do this when you come in their presence. And it's a very, very weird, very complex cosmic narrative. They use grays too. The grays apparently soak in human nutrients that they blend from us. So they are cannibalistic, if you could look at it that way. The reptilians are too. So they actually go after people and eat people, apparently. So that's their preferred source of protein. Ooh, it's all just so weird, you know. This stuff is weird. I get it. It's very, very weird, but I've been tracking these data points for so long, connecting the dots together. It's non-mainstream, but let's just see how this plays out. And so the Alliance is aware of this negative collusion at the top levels. We're going to bring in the Uncle Jack stuff in Great Awakening. And again, it's all coming to a head. Everything is coming to a head in the now. And so the alliance is the military and the intelligence community working to create headlines that we might not realize that they're behind, but they're pushing everything out into the open. So let's look at the headlines now this week that bring us the closest to seeing the truth for what it really is. This week's most provocative news headlines. Starting on Monday, a big part of it is getting this war to end. So Zelensky could be attending a meeting this week between the two, and I certainly think it's possible. That hasn't happened yet, but again, we're getting very close. We have a pathway to peace here. Then we have a judge refusing to release these grand jury transcripts. Why are they stalling on this? Because you're going to find out all of the evil, dark stuff that these people have been doing. That's part of the plan. So when those transcripts come out, when you learn the truth, this is all ushering in the tribunals, the Ascension, and the galactic family reunion. Because Archangel Michael also tells us that once we get to that point, that the beings will return. We're going to have these light beings coming back and meeting with us in person, just like we see in various religious scriptures, except this time they're not leaving. They're going to stay here and they're going to work with us. So it's a very, very exciting story, to say the least. Now we're learning about this murder of American democracy that was committed, the ominous cone of silence around the DOJ, as rumors of accountability mount against well-known figures who used government to make war against its own citizens. So yep, that's all part of the story, and again, very little coverage about this in the regular news. This was very fascinating. The Vice President, J.D. Vance, saying that we are done funding the war and demanding that Europe step up. Americans, I am sick of continuing to send their money, their tax dollars to this particular conflict. So yes, ending both of these wars is a very, very critical part of the plan coming to fulfillment. Is the movie Soylent Green disclosure, says Vacapalo? I don't know. I'm not going to make that speculation. I have no confirmation on that one way or another, but it's certainly has to do with what the negative groups are doing. We can say that much. Okay, so we're done funding the war. That's a pretty huge development, isn't it? And then here she is, you know, they're really feeling the heat right now. They're very, very worried about troops in there. So she says, as you listen to an unhinged 47 try to justify deploying this in D.C., here's the reality. The violent crime is at a 30-year low. Well, is that really true? Apparently not. And they say here she's under full panic mode over the Guard being deployed. So again, this is leading up to big, big stuff, you guys. Then on Tuesday, because again, that's the last stage. We're expecting the military is going to be there. They're there now. Who knows where this is going to go? I mean, the time loop gets weaker after this week's show. So I'm wondering if something really big is getting ready to happen, because otherwise I'm going to have to skip ahead and probably skip through some material to get back to where Michael gets good again. So maybe that's because something's about to happen. I don't know. Tuesday the 12th, he's trying to gaslight everybody and say, oh, if we really wanted to do that, we would have done it in one afternoon. I don't think that's true. Then they're going into meltdown mode. All the people on the left, they're like, no, we can't handle this. It sounds like a takeover, blah, blah, blah. So that's definitely, people are really riled up right now. And then we have Ukraine apparently softening their stance. They're finally saying, okay, yeah, we'll make a deal. And so this is really, really great. We really want to see this come to fruition. And then here you can just read that one. I'm not going to say any of that out loud, but yeah, not a good idea to go after public figures as strongly as she did. This is another one that showed up on the Alliance's own, you know, this is their posting on TG. It said that the administration will conduct a full review of the Smithsonian museums, including underground tunnels beneath them. Now, this has a lot of different layers of meaning here. You might think about it as, oh, they're doing evil, negative stuff down there. Well, the Smithsonian was also the one that would always come in and confiscate giant skeletons, and they would argue that these were indigenous ruins of indigenous people, and that therefore the ruins, these remains were illegally obtained, that because they're indigenous people, you're not allowed to have them. So over and over again, when you go back through the late 1800s and very early 1900s, and you read about giant skeletons, they would always get confiscated by the Smithsonian. And so I am very excited to see what's going to be in these Smithsonian tunnels. That was a big shock to see that one this week. We're now almost at 4,000 people at 1 hour and 10 minutes. Woo! Wednesday, August 13th. Now he's saying that he backs this greater state, which drew outrage. People don't like that at all, as you can imagine, because it's like they want to expand their boundaries, expand their power. So yes, I fully support this country and the people there. I'm just saying that at the top level, one of the things the Alliance is telling us is that there's some negativity there, and it just needs to be exposed and dealt with so we can get back to a healthy planet. And I'm totally in support of that, honestly. All right, now we're up to Thursday, that the prime suspect in the investigation is so-and-so. They say, will anything come of this? Yes, this is where it's all going. You're going to find out it goes all the way up to the very top, and that, again, everybody was being manipulated, and they had compromat on them, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a big, big awakening. Kaylin Robinson, despite how tired you are, David, I'm still finding it to be a compelling show. Thank you. Thank you, Kaylin. I'm going to crash right after we're done here. He hints at an expected nuclear arms treaty breakthrough in the summit. The energetic efforts are being made. Wouldn't that be great? Because again, we're worried about where is this going to go? Is it going to go nuclear? We hope not. Okay, so this is interesting, and this is again on their private, the TG page, that they've carried out this particular event involving a cow that it happens to be, in this case, the color red, but it wasn't being done in any open way. They did it secretly because they don't want a public backlash. And then they said 1 out of 3 is done. So I don't really know what that means. Is this 1 out of 3 events they want to do? Are they going to try to... I don't know what it means, but you can speculate all you want on that one. Then Friday, Mouthpiece says that the climate change is more dangerous than any crime in this area. And actually, the murderers are scarier, they say. So that's just showing you how they don't want... They really don't like that this is happening with the military, and they're trying anything they can to get it to stop. Usual suspects. Disclosure on the investigation reveals familiar names. So yes, all this stuff is going to be coming out in the future. You're going to learn the names. It's going to be shocking. People are going to be blown away. They're going to get sad, and there's going to be a big grief process that we all have to go through for a while. Then even the Attorney General sued over what he's calling a hostile takeover. Give us back our crime. So they're really worried about this. This is not normal. And it's exactly what we were told to expect. So this was very exciting on Friday, that there is a path towards peace after extremely productive talks. But then he said there's no deal until there's a deal. That could be coming very soon. Getting these 2 wars to wind down is a big, big part of finishing the plan, I think. So then on Saturday, he calls for a peace agreement to end this horrific war. And that actually Z, the president, will be coming to the Oval Office on Monday afternoon. Well, let's hope. I mean, this coming week could be very, very exciting for us. Isn't this wild, you guys? Wow. She is actually coming out and saying that he has been great and that she would nominate him for the Nobel Peace Prize. I actually was encouraged by the events of the last several months. What's that all about? Well, that's about her realizing that, you better start appeasing the people who are doing this before it's too late. You want to try to suck up to them a little bit and, maybe try to earn some good credit in the remaining time before this happens. So this would not be occurring unless they were truly panicking, folks. That's the bottom line right there. Wow, this is another really great one, that Xi Jinping has assured that China is not going to invade Taiwan at all, for the remainder of this presidency. He says, I will never do it as long as you're president. And I said, well, I appreciate that. I mean, that is huge. That's another thing on the list of like, oh my God, freaked out kind of stuff that you can just cross off the list and say, nope. Now we know that they've promised they're not going to do it, and they're going to, I believe they will uphold that agreement, which is really, really great. And then we hear that the summit went much better than expected. It is a serious reset of the relations. That's awesome. Then we see that these clinics are shutting down all across the U.S., making people safer, avoiding changes that would hurt them in their body, mind, and future. And then they put this one up, that this official was arrested, but now he's been released and got sent back. It's so common, this kind of a story. And again, it shows that something is going on to make this happen, cover things up, and it's going to be stopped. So then just today, we had a couple more that I wanted to put in. They have reached an agreement that the United States may provide security guarantees to this country. Well, that's huge, because you can't leave them completely vulnerable. If they don't have any security guarantees, they're going to remain vulnerable, and nobody's going to want to sign a deal. So this is actually a really big step, I think. Then Congressman Matt is now openly asking his followers whether this, in fact, is taking place. And that is interesting, too, because that's, again, we're getting just so close to the truth. All right, well, those are the week's headlines, and now I want to get back into the time loop with you guys, so let's just dive right into that. Again, we're just picking up where we left off. I think we were on June 11th, or something like June 11th of 1999 last week. And these time loops, the biggest new features this week are prophetic dreams that are quite amazing, showing us that it looks really scary right now, but it's all going to work out. So let's get into that. So I'm going to go back a little bit in time because, again, there's not very many Michael readings this week. But then the one that we just got last week has had new layers of meaning. So he speaks in a very metaphorical way, Archangel Michael. And again, I didn't know what I was saying. I just dictated these words, having no idea what they meant. A rumbling newsquake rushed into Brazil, overturning cars, trucks, and automobiles and wreaking havoc on the economy at large. The seas from Japan spill over onto the lands, and we have seen all about that before. Well, at first I thought that this was like, pole shift tsunami type of prophecy, but we did just have the Far East tsunami. Seas from Japan did spill onto the land. And then he also says a newsquake. A rumbling newsquake is not an earthquake. It's a very weird metaphorical phrase. So he says the steps on the long march back to progress can be rather difficult. And I heard the words Sao Paulo, Brazil. So let's go back a little bit and talk about this. This was the Freiding, Germany crop circle from July the 20th. And what does it show? It shows what looks like a stylized World War II or World War I undersea mine. When one of these things blows up, you would get a little tsunami. So it seems to be talking about the sun as well. It's got the Mayan calendar glyph around it. We've analyzed this one in great detail. This is the last crop circle we got, folks, for the season, because we're now past August 11th. August 11th, 2025 came and went with no new crop formations, so this appears to be the last one. The rebuilding of Solomon's temple, Vakapalo says, significance of the red heifer, heavily significant for these times. Got it. So, the rumbling newsquake that goes into Brazil, overturning cars and automobiles and wreaking havoc on the economy. What is that really about? Well, again, part of it, they talked about seas from Japan spilling onto the lands. I believe these crop formations are also being done by the same beings that did the Michael prophecies and are these angelic ETs. They like to communicate by giving us pictures because in their world, the free will principle is satisfied as long as you don't, tell people anything that's too direct. They have to veil it in metaphor. So this is metaphorical. You don't really know what this means, but we can analyze it and we can understand it, and that preserves free will, which in the Law of One, again, the source spiritual text from 1981 to 83 that's behind all my work, free will is like the most important principle. So, what is the rumbling newsquake, as we said last time? It's the tariffs. 50% tariffs on Brazilian exports have hurt acai berry producers, the fishing industry, and they talk about the fish fillet in the prophecies. So the fishing industry is hit with a 50% tariffs, causing job losses and bankruptcies. We have auto exports that are being hurt very badly. Remember, it said the newsquake is overturning automobiles. We had the bus collision, which actually did turn over a bus and a truck. And they said turning over, various vehicles in that prophecy. So that was also interesting. And then Brazil is directly involved in the peace talks, another layer of the newsquake. And he says he's not going to humiliate himself by talking about the tariffs. So in short, the term rumbling newsquake is consistent with Michael's message, which is that we are not getting actual physical earth changes. We're not getting the so-called end of the world that we thought. These changes are disruptive and they are painful, but they're coming about through news events, not necessarily any other means. It's non-catastrophic change. And this is consistent with the idea that we're going to have a non-catastrophic solar flash that leads to this ascension activation of humanity. We're very spring-loaded in our DNA. This one really blew me away. And again, I thought it was about the event of 2001, the big event. On the jet, it will appear that 2 were obeying orders and 1 was carrying them out. In fact, it was a huge theater or arena of spectators, all of whom were responsible. So this is again saying you got to open up your mind. Don't look at that event as just, the typical box cutter scenario. Oh, it's just a few guys and they just scored a really good hit on America. No, there was a huge theater arena of spectators in the DS. And they all planned this. That was supposed to be a decapitation strike. They had planned, in fact, Dr. Pete Peterson had moved out to Idaho to be in a survival environment because they were expecting society to collapse from those events. The economy would collapse, there would be mass starvation, there would be mass chaos. It would be very, very, very bad, very nasty. That did not happen, and they didn't know why, by the way. It was a miracle that it didn't turn out the way they thought it would. They thought that those events could lead to, big, big die-offs. And it didn't end up turning out that way. It all ended up working out. So that's what I think this is talking about. It's reminding you of the bigger group behind the scenes. And then it says, diseased chicken and mashed potatoes makes the wedding gown a little bit harder to wear. And we are not in agreement about that. Well, obviously it's a joke in part about if you eat too much, you're going to get fat and then your wedding gown won't fit anymore. But this is really talking about the poisoning of our food supply and the poisoning of other things that have been happening to us. And also it could include bird flu, So the beings do not like that, but they've had to allow this to progress in order to save our planet. Then, the landlord despised the conflict. I think the landlord is Zelensky. Okay, let's just be very clear on this because this was dazzling. He despised the conflict, but he understood that he could not surrender to the ultimate ordeal instead. If they end the war, apparently information is going to come out that's so damning to this group that they don't want the war to ever end, and that's why it doesn't. And same thing with the other one. In both cases, there's like a landlord and he says, I own this land, and then other people say, no, you don't. And he says, well, if you don't believe me, I'm just going to take it by force and do what I want. You can't stop me. That's really what's going on. And neither one of these countries wants to surrender to the ultimate ordeal, which means that you're finding out what they've really been up to. When these wars end, I imagine that's what's going to happen. So it says the white flag will rise, but it means nothing. Well, that's been what we've been seeing. He keeps saying he's going to surrender. Peace talks, it hasn't happened yet. Hopefully it will, but we're not there yet. Better instead to try to focus on the reality of the moment-by-moment quest to end the long-standing reign of violence as it now stands through diligent application of all that you have learned in this life. It's very, very interesting because, yes, we do want to end that long-standing reign of violence. So again, it is going to happen. But it's probably, they say military is the only way forward. That's one of the Alliance's sayings. The top priority comes from the desire to cease the violence against yourself and others. That is very important. And then he interestingly says the Senate makes tougher laws on gun restrictions as a result of this whole debacle. Well, that gets into their typical, the DS's typical strategy, which is to, you know, try to take everything away from you by causing these negative events and then say, well, we have to now because, you know, the horror was so bad. Vakapalo says, we are the modern day Nineveh, catastrophe averted. I believe that is true. The catastrophe is being averted. Easy Q8, I learned how to bring the energy of collective human evolution, but I have sat on my hands for 10 years out of fear. What do you suggest? Well, just get in there and do it, you know, get in there and work your stuff. We're all learning how to, you know, step into life more fully. And, you know, there is no right or wrong answer. Don't feel obligated that you have to do as much as I'm doing. I'm on a very strange and unique mission that involves this very curious work that we're doing. So let's just make sure everything looks good. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, we've got a lot of good stuff to report here. I'm just making sure that the tape is working, the recording is working. Just wanted to check on that, and it looks fine. The input button should be lit. For some reason it's not, but the input is still coming in just fine. So, this prophecy, as I was just saying, is clearly reflective of the ongoing agenda to take away all of our protection. And we also just had in the last week, when I did this last week, there were 2 more of these really upsetting, violent events that took place. And so that appears to be part of this agenda. Michael is talking about it. He obviously knows what's going on. It is fascinating for me to be in the middle of this week after week. Sally Vu just donated $100. Thank you very much for that. That's the red one that shows up right here. So we really love that. Thank you so much. Steve Smith says, I broke a generational cycle of truth denial. At the same time, the planets are aligning. Thank you for your attention to this matter. All right. Oh, and David, when you said hover car, I remembered Stavati said you need to have a minimum to invest. I don't have that much. I hope some people here do, because you only have 10 openings. Yes. If you would like to be involved in our company, Stavati Aerospace, there are still a certain number of slots available. We're looking for smaller investors, but ideally, you know, it would be more like in the 5-figure range, low 5-figure, anything like that. If you can do that, we have very big deals coming in. It would be great. So go to stavati.com if you can help us, or if you've already done it and you'd like to put some more in, that would really, really help us out right now. So again, if you'd like to invest, we do have an option available. I don't know all the details, but you can go to stavati.com, write us an email, and you will get further information. And that's how we can legally do this. It's all done through SEC regulated processes. It's a 506 Reg D offering that we're doing. And so you can find out more by writing into Stavati. Thank you. All right, let's keep going. Meanwhile, the fish fillet continues to settle down into a new predicament. Well, wait a minute. He just said rumbling newsquake, and we identified that no, it's not catastrophic earth changes. It was the tariffs. And remember that one of the things the tariffs hurt was the fishing industry? Well, that's what he's talking about. The fish fillet continues to settle down into a new predicament. Then he says the oceans have been tortured long enough. They cease to be viable in future long-term scenarios. That is another problem we face here that should not be ignored. So again, very exciting that this prophecy is so time-looped into the present. It's a miracle. It truly is a miracle. Because the fish fillet refers to the collapse of the Brazilian fishing industry, and he just mentioned this rumbling newsquake in Brazil, overturning cars, trucks, and automobiles, and wreaking havoc on the economy at large. Wow. Nor should the dividers who would settle up land among themselves. This is the main reason I put this back in this week, you guys. So who's the dividers that would settle up the land among themselves? Well, that could be the people that invaded, the people that wanted to take over certain land. You know, and why are these wars happening? They're fighting over certain territories, like the 4 territories off to the far side of that country. And then, of course, the Strip. So in both cases, there's disputed land where one country is saying this belongs to us and the other country is saying no, it doesn't. and they couldn't work it out, and it ended up turning into a war, a very sad, tragic war. So I think that's what they're talking about, the dividers who would settle up the land among themselves. Nor should those dividers that would settle up the land among themselves fail to realize that the clubhouse they are playing in is not impervious to damage from outside forces such as ourselves who would seek to right these situations. Holy smokes. What do you mean damage from outside forces? Well, Michael and his human ET colleagues are the lords of karma. They can manifest severe negative karmic events. That's part of what this is all about. It's not as simple as you think it is. The world is actually much more interesting and weird and complex than we thought. And so these higher dimensional beings, if you don't play the game, if you don't try to bring about peace, they can hurt you. They can allow negative things to happen. They can allow a big attack to occur. They won't stop these other militaries from doing that. They will allow that country to be hit. They will allow that country to be completely wiped out. And that's what I think this is talking about. In other words, don't feel like you can just do whatever you want to do and get away with it. We are going to stop you. That's what they're saying. So again, I say here, it is very interesting that Michael said these words last week, and then immediately after that show, we're seeing massive steps towards peace taking place. So maybe that's a coincidence, but it might not be. You know, it might be that that everybody involved in this is aware that these higher forces are real and they need this to come to an end now. They're on a schedule. So that was very, very provocative. And again, I didn't know when we did these slides last week that we were going to immediately be going towards peace so quickly thereafter, but it suggests that this work is being taken very seriously, which is great. So don't fret and fume about the politics that you see on the earth, as the focus, as always, is upon your own spiritual growth, enlightenment, and ascension. In other words, this is all going in the right direction. You may not see how it's happening, but it is. We can say, so this is my conscious mind kicking in a little bit, as I said last week, because it was 1999. We were all worried that the Y2K, or the year 2000, would be that, you know, everybody had 2 digits for the year. I remember even seeing it in my mom's checkbook, that it's like, it would say 19 and then a blank. It's like, well, Mom, what happens when it's after the year 2000? How do you keep writing checks? Well, you have to get new checks because the 19 won't be accurate anymore. At the date field up at the top of the check, it would say 19 blank. So you just write in the last 2 digits of the year. Computers were doing that too. They were counting the year, only going for the last 2 digits, and therefore the fear was that once it went from 99 to 00, that the computers would collapse. That was the so-called Y2K collapse. Everybody was talking about it. Art Bell was talking about it. And so my conscious mind, I tried not to let this happen, but occasionally it would get in a little bit. Remember, remote viewing is not 100% accurate. It's 99% accurate. So this was kind of one of my 1% off things where my mind listened to it a little bit, and my mind was hearing, oh, earthquakes, and oh, tsunamis, and oh, Y2K. So again, I'm not perfect. It did happen occasionally, but then Michael seemed to switch that around, and still using his telepathic connection to me, made it end up being prophetic anyway. So just get rid of the word Y2K, because that was my conscious mind. We can say that the collapse will indeed be of the iced storm variety relative to the listing in the article that David has recently seen. And so I said this is an AOL, or what they called in remote viewing the analytic overlay. That means your conscious mind interfered. But it is still relevant because I'm actually listing the house I grew up in, 621, for sale. And it also has to do with the storm, which is the code word for what the Alliance is doing. So the collapse will be of the ice storm variety. Very interesting. Bearing that in mind, it is important to continue to prepare your food supplies, as we have always noted. Most importantly are to store the brown rice and dried beans in large 50-pound bags. So I think it's always good to have some of this stuff on hand. If there are going to be 10 days of darkness, you don't want to be only living on rations if you can get them. If there's a blackout, you want to just be prepared. So that really does suggest this is getting ready to happen. The Amtrak train station is boarding its passengers as the vehicle into higher realms now. And thus, as you do this, keep your focus on the Ascension and on the validity of these experiences in our society. Wow. Well, the Amtrak, I think, is talking about the mothership. The vehicle in the higher realms would be like a spaceship, I believe. So again, keep your focus on the Ascension. This is where all this is taking us. You will notice that more and more you are becoming a being of light, able to transcend the difficulties and hardships all around you. That was the point of this dream this morning as well, where I was leaving high school and telekinetically digging in holes to plant grain. And grain is, again, the bread of life, the bread of Christ. We read that last week. So then I heard the words typo dong missile. So again, that was another warning that there might be missiles involved if the people involved don't surrender, that there might be, big attacks on Ukraine or something. Well, now they are surrendering. So very interesting how this correlated with Michael's words. I was actually getting terrible bad sleep at the time in June 1999. But even then, the dreams and readings are still very time looped. Some of it was personal, but still global as well. So we had a prophetic dream the next morning. I read you this last time, so we'll just blow right through it. The earliest parts were in the elementary school. Many changes were going on. I was moving my stuff out of there and was moving my whole life in general. Well, that is now happening. I'm getting ready to, one way or another, I'm looking at the idea of selling this house that I'm in now, basically just because it's so horrible to live here for 8 months a year. It's the wind, it's the cold, So it might be better to just actually get out of here and sell it and move to Sedona, which is what I'm considering doing. So that's all part of that story as well. And I'm also selling the house I grew up in, just freeing up a lot more revenue. There's a lot of transition. And so again, this was prophetic of selling the house, which solves many problems at once. I ran into my friend Jeanette from church. She still didn't know where she was living, was trying to live with me. And so then I talked about this random girl wanted to move in with me. And I will also be able to rent a place once I get money from the sale. It's going to be great to have money again. And that's, again, why I want you guys to support me with the Great Awakening course. If we do that, it will solve many, many problems. If you guys can really step up, then, I'm going to sell the house I grew up in no matter what. But this house, I may not need to make that option available to me if you guys participate well enough in this course. And so let's just see how that plays out. But either way, I may end up leaving this house anyway. I'm not really sure. I'm looking into all the possibilities right now. There was a romantic vibe between us and we were reconciling something. Jude came onto the scene in the car, interested in making music and hang out, said he was going to be moving to Schenectady. There's that theme of moving again. I'm going to be moving to Sedona, studying massage therapy, getting ready to go for a new skill so he could get better jobs. So this is indeed prophetic of my intended move back to Sedona. And I'll be able to reconnect with various friends and associates. I was really excited he was going to be living near me. We talked about the need to play music. He seemed a little reticent to hang out. He was in a tightly packed car with other people. I called him after this, and he was indeed moving. So this was a letter from him that said the move is planned. And there was a scene in the dream, by the way, that I didn't talk about in last week's show where people are just mowing lawns. And that was part of what I left out. But then it turned out, when I sent the dream to him, that was included. And he said, yes, my wife's father wants to use my lawn expertise, buy landscaping equipment, thinking I'll go into business with him and mowing lawns. I told him I'd have to think about it, but I didn't want to give him the obvious painful no way. Glad to hear that our dream patterns have not rusted with distance or time. Love the brother of infinite love. And you saw Jude in our previous videos. So the prophetic dreams continue the next day, which is June 11th, 1999. And now we're into new stuff. I had a long series of dreams that involved a complicated plot with a female protagonist. The whole thing was very negative. So this is, again, talking about, people in the DS, certain top figures, you know who they are, starting with H. We had seen a movie together, but it ended on a sour note. So then I decided I wanted to go see the same movie again. This happened in a very short period of time. So again, I think that she symbolizes here the DS and how we're all kind of in this Vakapala. Will Stavati make a noise-free lawnmower, LOL? I don't know. I had never thought of that. It's funny. So this is talking about the drama that we're all going through right now. Then we were watching a movie together. I went into the box office, which looked very old-fashioned and informal. I had the distinct misfortune of seeing that all of her friends were sitting there in chairs, As soon as I came in, they looked at me as if I was the biggest creep in the world. So part of the way you could look at this is the woman, I said divine feminine, that's kind of maybe true, but it also represents the DS. Many of us feeling that we're out of alignment right now. In fact, let's scratch the divine feminine. I don't think that's true. She definitely symbolizes the DS and how they hate us. They look at us as if we're the biggest creeps in the world. But I put this together quickly and I was tired, so scratch divine feminine's the DS. As I was in this office, the whole plot changed. It now seemed we were on an ocean-going vessel, perhaps right near the shore. This woman and I both became characters, and we were forced together to work together, even though she didn't like me. That's probably why I said it was a divine feminine, in part, because she ends up kind of turning around. But anyway, we both get attacked by this crazy sea monster. That's where this is all going. So I think even the people in the DS, they're participating in this agenda, but they're all gonna suffer if the planet was destroyed, right? Like, why would you be deliberately trying to destroy the planet when you have to live on it? It's pretty freaking crazy. So a panel on the floor of the boat had cracked open, revealing green ocean water underneath. To my horror, I realized a terrifying sea creature was swimming right underneath our boat. There was a strong implied theme that our fears create the reality that we see. That's a big message this week. I knew this is what the dream was going to show me before it was even in full swing. The tentacle reached out and grabbed somebody. It just kept getting worse and worse. The creature turned out to be singularly enormous. It had huge tentacles as wide as a whole person. It grabbed the entire ship and started tipping it. A few people might have actually died, and they looked like characters from the movie I saw last night, which had anxiety in it. It was called The 13th Floor. So what is this about? This is talking about the group mind that we're all in right now. The monster has come out. We're all feeling extreme jeopardy. We're all feeling terror right now. We don't know how these things are going to work out. It's extremely scary. Everybody is worried, and that's in the mass consciousness. So it's easy to have insomnia. We're still doing 4,000 viewers at 1 hour and 41 minutes. This is great. Thank you for being here. So this to me was the signature dream of the week, the massive monster. But wait till you see what happens to the monster. It's so great how this dream turns out. The monster was shaking the ship. It killed some people, I believe. The woman and I somehow survived and made it back onto solid ground. And so again, I think she serves as the DS, and it's both positive and negative. At some point, we went inside this house, and we thought we'd gotten away from the monster. I was thinking that I could leave the house and everything would be fine. I just wanted to go home. I was totally exhausted. That sounds familiar. So was the woman I was traveling with. We had bonded from this trauma. We were now thinking everything would be okay. Well, this is symbolic of the false endings that happen before we get to the final victory. So we're definitely not at the final victory yet. Guess what happens next? Tentacles actually bust through the windows of the house. It was pure horror. And now it's attacking us again in the house. It's on land. That was the first time we realized that this monster had a body like a dragon. Well, Satan is called the dragon in the book of Revelations. The body was like a hydra. Yeah, the hydra is the symbolic creature that has multiple heads, symbolizing, again, the DS, and how it has all these different ways that it's trying to attack us at the same time, but they're all interconnected. It also had one big head, but we couldn't really see it, and that was frightening. So this clearly symbolizes our final showdown with the Hydra of the DS. And that is happening right now. So I ran outside to try to escape this beast. I left the house and ran as hard as I could. I was running through a really nice area, actually, with trees and rocks, and I saw a path in the woods that I could take. I thought about the fact that slugs don't like going over wood chips because it hurts their bodies. I figured the monster might be the same way, and that if I ran into the woods, maybe I would be safe. I also figured that since this monster was so big, if I could hide under a piece of bark, maybe the monster would not want to look for me, so that's exactly what I did. I hid under a gigantic piece of bark. So this is, again, how we feel that, like, we're being attacked. We feel threatened. We want to do something about it. We want to escape the threat, but the monster just keeps on coming. It's very much associated with the hero's journey. You think you got away from the monster, but then you get the alien in the airlock, and it comes back one last time at the end. I think the woman was still somewhere nearby me. We looked out and realized the creature had become nothing more than a comical-looking creature. It now had the head of Richard Simmons. It became very comical. It was now similar to a disgruntled person with two minions. So it no longer really looked like a monster. It basically became human, and it turned into Richard Simmons. Isn't that crazy? Richard Simmons was our weight loss, get healthy guru. And so what this really symbolizes is the stimulus of the negative in our lives. When you're attacked and you feel this fear, it actually inspires you into positive change. So again, the monster, it's like Scooby-Doo, right? Oh, it would have been fine if it wasn't for you meddling kids. Every Scooby-Doo episode seems to have some type of seemingly supernatural monster, but by the time you get to the end, you realize, no, it's just this guy, and he was doing the whole thing, and they unmask him at the end. That's exactly what this is about. This is a Scooby-Doo type of ending. The DS is not really as scary and as bad as we thought. It's just people, and they're all going to be unmasked. And then it gets even more interesting. Check this out. The monster actually took its job with a degree of silliness and carelessness. It wasn't even sure if it wanted to be doing what it was doing. That's obviously talking about the DS. Both of us realized this whole monster thing was sort of a joke. The threat kept minimizing more and more. Isn't that great? At the end, the monsters were actually reduced to the size of a child's toy action figures. And I actually picked up the action figures with my hands. This is an exciting prophecy showing us that all of the things we are worrying about will soon dissipate and become much less serious. In other words, this horrible monster is now just a toy, and it was ultimately created by our consciousness. So, again, this is very prophetic. The tentacles clearly represent the DS. It does look terrifying. It's extremely scary. But the Alliance has got this. Michael has got this. Everything is going to be cleaned up, taken care of, and brought back under control. And the evidence is there. I'm probably the most positive person talking about this stuff who isn't always obsessing with fear and doom and saying that it's all good. So, you know, we got good stuff going on here. Glad that you guys are here with me today. So, it's a great time to be alive, I gotta say. The next day, these prophetic dreams continue again on June the 12th. So in this dream, I was getting lost on the farm that I had lived at before I moved to the place I was in then, John's property. I was getting lost on John's property through all these back roads that were there. I had to use back roads in totally different ways. They were loaded with potholes. There was definitely a feeling of New Paltz combined with the resort I worked at, Mohonk, and also New York City. At some point, I drove through an area that had several different big potholes. So this again symbolizes the world as it is today. The potholes are all the difficulties that we have living our lives, the bumps in the road, so to speak. People were being very dangerous. They were driving right into our faces. This is the hostility in the world today. They were not slowing down because of all the potholes, the road disorder. It was very dangerous as we tried to drive around. Then we decided to leave this road behind altogether. Again, if you can avoid suffering so much, if there's a way to do that, I would say go for it. I drove right through these potholes, but I was not sinking or falling. That was during the time I was still moving around place to place. And in the dream, I knew it was not right for me to go back to John's anymore. Well, this is possibly prophetic of my leaving the cabin for good. As I was thinking today on my walk, I'm like, do I really want to hold on to this high-priced asset that, you know, I could get a lot of money out of this place and use it for something better? So we're definitely looking at it. We're probably going to have it listed, and, you know, we'll just have to figure out how this all plays out. But it's going to happen in ease and flow. I do believe that. Charlie Winter. The Ring of Fire's activation is said to be associated with an ancient red dragon. Could that be tied into the prophecy this week? The dragon is scary, but it's actually our protector. It's an interesting idea. But the fact that the dragon turned into Richard Simmons, I think, really shows it is the DS. And again, the Scooby-Doo unmasking, it's, you know, it's not as dangerous as you thought it was. We're actually going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. But thank you for that donation, Charlie Winter. I appreciate it. All right. So I ended up driving over the potholes, and then I only realized later that they were actually gigantic fissures in the Earth's crust. The entire street had been largely washed away in a flood, and these were now holes that went deep into the Earth, a huge cavity that opened up in the Earth's crust. So this is talking about how, yes, we are again going through, like he said with the rumbling newsquake, that's part of why I brought this back. The dream is symbolizing how the stress that we're experiencing now replaced the idea of the Earth actually being wiped out and destroyed. We're getting a better outcome than that because we're actually having positive things take place instead of negative things. And we should all be very happy about that. We should be happy about the fact that we're not having these giant fissures in the earth and we're not having the entire street washing away in a flood. We've avoided these negative earth changes by going through these very painful experiences together. And we're going to get a positive, non-catastrophic ascension. It's very, very cool. It was incredible for us to drive over the road again and realize the holes in the concrete had gotten so big. It seemed almost impossible that I could have stayed alive as I drove over it, but I somehow did. This is again prophetic of how all of us are going through seemingly impossible challenges, but we are surviving. And then Michael says the words Serb contacts. Well, this was very dazzling because our Stavati Aerospace company has major contacts in Serbia, and our CEO, Chris's wife, Maya, is also Serbian. So go figure. That was a really, really cool one. He says, patented leather shoes are yours for the taking. What you decide to do with them will be up to you. With your shirt tucked in, we can proceed forward through a pre-described set of motions, and all is well. So what does this all mean? This is weird, cryptic stuff. This is all prophetic of us getting a major financial upgrade as a result of the DS's defeat. We will be wearing, patented leather shoes are normally associated with wealthy people, but they will be yours for the taking. What you decide to do with them will be up to you. And then the idea of, on the planetary level, tucking our shirt in, we're all, again, like the Richard Simmons thing. He's the guy that gets you healthy. The monster that's attacking you turns you into a healthier person. I've lost a whole bunch of weight. My body looks better than it ever has. Love handles are just completely disappearing. And I'm getting cut in my chest. It's really cool how quickly this is happening. This was a nice little burst of extra readings. But again, I was very stressed out and tired at this time in 1999, so there really didn't get a whole lot of new readings at this point. But we're tucking our shirt in, and we can, and all is well. That's a very important part of the prophecy too. Okay, so then we have more dreams the next day on June 13th. I'm really, really tired. I stayed up really late last night since I went to the movies. There was a movie theater schema in the dream. My father had a lot to do with it, also my brother and his girlfriend. As we were leaving the movie theater, I saw a guy from high school who doesn't usually show up in my dreams. I started humming the Quiet Riot song, Come On, Feel the Noise. He picked up on that, smiled, and sang it as we were leaving the theater. So what does the theater represent? The theater represents that you're all in a movie. The Alliance, the military intelligence community, is creating this movie for us. Feel the noise is like the storm, the noise of the storm. Come on, feel the noise. We're all going through this movie. And then check out what happens. I end up with a brilliant, glowing robe of light. It's a blue robe that is glowing with light. It looked very brilliant and very bright, definitely looked Asian. So this is talking about our activation of our light body. I was drinking water, looking at myself in the mirror, and had an incredible feeling of power. Again, this is prophetic of the activation of our robe of light in the Ascension. Okay, then the same morning, I got up again, 7:24 a.m. I was roaming around with the two brothers, Don and Bob, in a dream to different places and different houses. Both of them were their usual strange, discordant selves. We were trying to find a place where we could stay. There again, this is my quest to get the hell out of here before the hell winds begin, in the 8 months of winter. In their case, they were going to move into a very tight garage. There also seemed to be guys from Canada who were working on a place to stay as well. It was getting really cramped. So there you go. It's all about moving again. We ended up at a place I somehow knew to be Grandma and Grandpa's house. Mom and Dad had cleaned it up tremendously. There was much less of a problem in the way of odor. All these Christian books were lying around. Papers and junk were lying around. My friend Dave from elementary school was there with me, along with several girls. 3 girls were already there. We might have brought 2 other girls with us. We were all going to try to live in this house together. As I was sitting there on the couch with him, I realized this place looked almost exactly the same as 621. Well, this is prophetic of selling off the 621 house and moving somewhere new. Again, very time-looped And it's talking about in general how we're all giving up the house of where we were before. We're all giving up our old lives and heading into something new. Robert just donated and said, David, did you hear about a space object heading for our sun? Could that be how the sun erupts? Well, now this is a vibrational thing. It's not about a collision with an object. It's about the vibrational change that causes the sun to, do its thing. It doesn't need to be hit by something. But it's a great idea, and I thank you for bringing it up anyway. All right. The three girls in the house were smoking weed. I didn't want any, and that's prophetic of how I've now gotten myself completely off of it again. I did realize for the time being I could live in the same place with everyone and make it all work. So again, this is prophetic of how we're co-creating our ascension together. We're all moving into this new house, which is going to be the fourth dimensional Earth. And then, I just put the timestamp in, but this is still right after the dream. I should have taken that out, so just ignore that part. But then Michael comes in with some very provocative stuff, time looped into what we're talking about, and he mentions the plan, so check this out. Don and I have turned off the lights. Well, who is Don? Again, it's very likely the President of the United States. And so, interesting how the lights have been turned off. We're in the dark right now. We don't know what's really going on. It's really scary. And so we all feel like we don't know where this is going. It's all very troubling and upsetting. But no, Michael wouldn't be giving me all these prophecies if this stuff was fake and we're not going to have a big, big positive outcome. I do believe that. Your mic is not sounding good, says Vakapalo. Well, I don't know what to tell you. Whoops. I did spill some water on it. Sorry, everybody. Let's see if that makes it any better. You sound muffled. Sound check. Your microphone is low. Do you have Zell? Okay, so is the mic? It's better now? Okay. Is it better? Everybody says it's better. It's fine with me. Really fuzzy. Better. Sounds better. It's back. Okay, you fixed it. It does sound better. The audio was better. Sorry about that. I spilled water on it by accident. What a freakish little thing. I'm glad I caught it right away. Much better. Audio is much better. Okay, we got it. Let's keep going. Don and I have turned off the lights, but you can still feel the smell. Isn't that interesting? So I unsealed this immediately after I had explosive diarrhea. That was part of what happened. So that was funny because it was during the night. Or no, it wasn't during the night for that one. But it's also prophetic of how I could not sleep after I'd turned off all the lights because we were smelling smoke all week. But again, it's not just that. So that's one layer of the time loop. I'm glad that everything sounds better. Water is emotion, da-da-da. That's right, somebody said that. I've turned off the lights, but you can still feel the smell. So it's the smell of fear. Everybody's afraid, and that's symbolic also of the smoke that we all went through. So again, he's still giving us very interesting stuff here. He says, I know this sounds weird, but the last time we asked you a question, we never offered you the same answer twice. So check this out. Reveal to yourself the nature of the plan. He directly mentions the plan. I had no idea what the plan was back in 1999. It's absolutely fascinating. Yeah, trust the plan. You're exactly right. The lights are off right now, but it's all going to be okay. He says, understand that the machinations of the deeper plan can manifest themselves automatically. This is a shockingly direct reference to the plan of the Alliance to expose, arrest, and defeat the DS, destroying our world. This is amazing. Part of that plan is an automatic response, whoops, I spelled the wrong, to the incoming Christ energies on Earth. So again, the machinations of the deeper plan manifest automatically. It's because there's a big consciousness shift going on all around the world. We're all feeling it in our own way at the same time. Very, very exciting stuff. You have been worried about your bills. I think this is talking about all of us. That's why I need you to buy my product. Keep that in mind in the focus in which we inhabit, or keep in mind that in the focus in which we inhabit, the degree of change which we can create moment by moment within your planetary sphere is quite substantial. So again, this is prophetic of how when the plan is fulfilled, everyone will be made wealthy again. Then he says, chemicals give way to a new form of acid, which eats through your residual feelings of blockage or limitation. And so I said in 1999, as I was transcribing this, very early in the history of the transcripts, they mentioned turning up the blue chemistry as a metaphor of increasing our vibration. So that's part of what I think it is. The chemicals are giving way. The higher energies, the blue chemistry is the higher energies that are streaming into our bodies. And it creates this new form of acid, quote unquote, eating through your emotional and spiritual blockages and limitations. So that big bowel release that I had seemed to have been caused by drinking acidic apple cider vinegar this morning before breakfast. The vinegar ate right through blockages that were in my colon. So there you go. It's definitely time looped in more than one way. The main thing is that this new energy is eating through all the limitations on Earth. This dream was indeed meant to indicate how you are coming into a sense of your own arrival at a home once again. There's a prophecy about me moving again. A place that you can call your own and just relax and be comfortable there. Wow. This is prophetic about how we're all going to feel at home on Earth after the exposure and defeat of the DS, and the prophecy of my own intent to move to Sedona for the winter. So this is really beautiful. You're coming in, we're all going to be arriving at a new home, a place we can call our own. That's the fourth density Earth. The world will be transformed. It's going to be very, very beautiful. So this is the end of this week's time loop. We had many personal dreams after this that aren't necessarily as time looped. I mean, I've been looking at them. I'm like, that's weird. So we may have to jump ahead to where Michael gets good again. But we will be doing that next week. So now, this is the time in the show where your dear old daddy has to go take a big old bathroom break. So that's what I'm going to do now. So let me open up the other file here. We're going to do our nature break reels. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the, let's see, which one we do? Yeah. All right, I'm going to do this one first. And then we'll do the other one next week. A turkey family with 5 babies appeared. And it happened right after I bought new food. It was so weird. I went to the store. I bought new food for the turkeys. I left it in the middle of the driveway. Then I brought it inside the house. And as soon as I brought it inside the house, these turkeys showed up. And I've had no turkeys all year. So this was our turkeys showing up. So this is a 7-minute break video. It gives me a chance to go to the bathroom, and then I'll be right back to you guys. So without further ado, what I have to do is mute my microphone now, and then we'll play the tape, and then I'll be back momentarily. So thank you for watching. We'll see you in just a second. Okay, my microphone is off, and I will be back to you guys momentarily. Let's watch the show. Here we go. And action. Hi, you guys. This is genuinely amazing. I just went and did a bird food run using, almost the last of my money. I paid for it in cash. That's okay. And then all of a sudden, got my little turkey family, and they showed up. This is only the second time they've been here all year. So we got to stir this up. We got to stir this up so that we have the right mixture of ingredients coming together. So excited that the turkeys are here. You guys feel that? It's really wonderful. I have such a bond with these animals. What do you think? Does that look pretty blended? Maybe we need a little bit more of these peanuts right here. I think that's the one thing. Sorry about the shaky camera. Just throw the rest of those in there. I'll throw this in here with the other bags. Okay. Now we'll just mix this around a little bit. It's definitely a turkey mix. They love this. They love the peanuts most of all. Okay, now There's my bear spray. They haven't been back here. The turkeys are all out there. Look at them. They're all out there right now. Whoops. Oh yeah, there's, let's see, 2 adults. 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 babies. Okay, so here we go. I typically take a little of this, because this is like for the doves. And then we do the rest as turkey food. But they'll eat that other stuff too. Okay, here we go. Let's see what happens. Hi, turkeys. Yeah, Daddy's here. Daddy's here. He's got food for you. Look. Look at this. Look at this. Whoop, whoop. Oh, here comes another turkey. Yay, look. Hey. No fighting. My David stones are getting bigger. Got it all laid out here. Just decided to put them in some kind of shape instead of just random piles. Hey guys, look. Look at this. Oh, they are so happy and excited. This is an instant, oh, sorry. This is an instant reward. It's all over my jacket. It's totally all white. Babies usually don't let me get this close. This is very exciting, you guys. It's a lot better than having a bat running through my house, isn't it? That was last night. It's okay. Jays are excited, but the turkeys might scare them off, so they got to kind of wait in line. But he's enthusiastic about it. Look at him. He's like, no, I'm getting in there. I don't care about the turkeys. I don't care about Daddy. I'm just getting in there. Yay, turkeys. All right, well, he's choking almost. Anyway, they're very happy. And we got about enough time now, so we'll end the video. Thanks for watching. Our turkeys are back again. I'm going to give them more food. Hi, turkeys. Hi. What do you guys think? You want more stuff? You guys want more stuff? Yeah, you do. Well, I'm going to bring it out right now. And I will see you guys in a minute. Thank you for being here. It's so exciting to see them, isn't it? I've adopted a little family. 5 babies. Okay, you guys, we'll get you some food. Don't worry. It's great. So happy to see them. Yeah. Let's see if we can catch the stellar jays, the cobalt blue cardinal-looking birds, in action without them running away. They're very, very happy right now. They do sometimes fight the other animals, but they're amazing birds. They look so great, don't they? Cobalt blue. I can't usually get this on film, but I wanted you guys to see it. And for whatever reason, they heard me talking. Okay, that's enough. So I'm pretty proud of ourselves here because we got in, we saved our stuff. It got it not to have to be rained on and hailed on. And you saw the video, if I played it already, that it literally came in. We got it done literally just in time. We got back to the house just in time. The weather forecast was accurate on this. Jude's rental car is getting pelted, but not badly enough that it should cause any damage. The hail seems to have eased, and now we're into a rainstorm. This is almost a daily event up here. And it'll go away in like an hour or so, and then it's like it never even happened. Hi, you guys, this is genuinely amazing. Sudden, I'm a little turkey fan. All right, we're back. Thank you guys for watching. I did pad it out at the end with a little extra footage that I had from when that tornado flew over the house, which I didn't even realize had happened at that point. But there you go. So now I'm back, and hope you guys are doing great. We had a couple donations come in. Let's see. Neela Zerker donated $25. Thank you very, very much. Thanksgiving is near, says Vacapalo. Bright Valley AK, here's for the turkeys. If you leave, who will feed them? Well, they'll be fine. Because I used to have like many, many more turkeys, and I think that other people started feeding them because I'd talk about it in the grocery store, Ace Hardware. I think people are buying that turkey food. It's all good. Charlie Winter says, beautiful turkeys. Colorado is amazing. Will we get to a point in the early part of our transformation to a higher vibration where we won't need to eat meat? I'm a blood type O. That's a good question. I think definitely by the time we get to 4D, we won't need to eat meat at all. I don't know about the interim. That's a good question. Dang, the crows are up. It's 5:16 a.m. here, says Anna Nishida. I like that you are compassionate to the animals. It is so difficult for them to find food now. That's true. We just don't want any bears, but, you know, the bears have now... Once I went out and confronted that bear, that's the last time we ever had a problem. So that was great. All right. We probably can keep this show to 3 hours, I think, and that's great. So thank you guys for watching. I just want to keep lighter summer hours. And again, I'm very tired from not being able to sleep due to excessive heat and the smoke and everything. So latest posts. Let's go into this. This is the Alliance talking to us through this method that you see in the middle there, the shadow. They do this on Twitter. And in my estimation, this is some sort of authentic communication that they're giving us, letting us know what they're really up to. And it's very, very provocative stuff. So first we have O'Rourke claiming that they want everybody to be given the same freedom, regardless of how it happens. When they regain power, that everybody gets that. And he says, this is what makes us so god-darned great in the first place. And that they will be greater as people that become welcomed in. Well, does anybody really believe that? No. But, you know, apparently that is what they want to do on that side. Again, that's part of the agenda to break down the country. And then again, we look at the number of seconds, and then we correspond that to the original posts as defined by this letter here, right? Post number 17, why does he travel in advance of the POTUS to foreign locations? Why is this relevant? Because he's trying to throw everything off. Focus on the power of the president related to the military, in this case, the Marines. Using military intelligence to prosecute bad actors. There's your arrest scenario. Avoiding corrupt agencies and judges. Everything they do has been forecasted and planned for. So then, this was a very sad thing, exposed in Muncie, New York. Deep in the woods, people were discovered performing this ceremony, and then they quickly fled when they were confronted. If you want to read the rest, you can. It's very sad. But again, there are certain groups, not all of them, but certain groups where they are practicing this kind of stuff, and this is just making us more aware of it. Post number 89 is, again, talking about how all the posts need to be put together into a big map. And they're saying that the military intelligence has open investigations into these people. And again, they're talking about money being sent to them under the disguise of relief funds. And what countries donated the most? Well, Saudi Arabia. So again, this is all going to come out in the future. We talk about this stuff all the time. Then they made this kind of funny, shaming post. Would you vote for him in the 2028 election? So maybe the Alliance doesn't like him that much. I know, like they said before, that he was actually working too much with the small country. So this was a very weird opinion statement. I'm not sure what to make of it, but you know, you got this overweight looking guy with a very funny look on his face. So I guess they're not so excited about that being the way 2028 would work out. And we have post number 10. And remember, once again, they're talking about the open investigation into the foundation. So it's the same thing, money being sent there under the disguise of relief. They said that again. This shows intelligence, that they're doing this on purpose. They're telling us things that are real in these posts. And the number of seconds of the video does correspond to an intelligent message. Because it's the same basic message in two different posts back to back here. Good people were forced into bed with evil under personal and family threats. Could you live with yourself if you were covering up these evil acts, if you had a safe way out? These people do worship the devil, and some of them openly show it. So now he's trying to say that everybody who hates him is a bot. That seems very disingenuous, doesn't it? Social media algorithms are the ones turning the public opinions. They're losing a propaganda war, and that most of the people who hate him are just bots. I don't think so. Even people from his own country are extremely fed up, and believe me, I talk to them, I know. So post number 35, wow. They're not bots, they're real. And again, this is one of those two mass arrest posts that we hear about so often. The president will be well insulated and protected on Air Force One and abroad, specific classified locations, while operations are conducted due to the nature of the entrenchment. It is time to take back our country, make America great again. We will be saluting and praying for the brave men and women. Let's do that right now. Let's pray for them. They will be undertaking this assignment to bring forth peace, unity, and return power to the people. It is our hope that this message reaches enough people to make a meaningful impact. We cannot yet telegraph the message through normal methods, for reasons I'm sure everyone here can understand. So this is totally one of the two biggest prophecies we get, 34 and 35, as you know. Follow the questions from previous threads and remain calm. Primary targets are within DC on the top at both sides. How interesting. And now they've got the troops there already. Any spillover will be quickly shut down. Stay alert, be vigilant, and above all, please pray. And then 4:10:20 also adds up to 34. And we have the quote, God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. Love is patient, love is kind. God bless you, my fellow Americans. Okay, next we have the former U.S. Surgeon General shilling out for these two individuals once again. He's praising them as the best experts at the time when we went through this, claiming that their recommendations saved up to $20 million. And he now warns that the significant cuts to these programs could cost lives. Well, does anybody believe that anymore? Some people do, but not very many. Post number 43, he says, these crumbs are not meant to scare anyone, but merely to inform you. Any resistance will be dealt with swiftly. The core focus is removing entrenched, fortified bad actors within our federal government, past and present, as well as others. Simply be diligent. When this event starts happening, the mass arrest thing we've been talking about so much, phone numbers will be provided if you witness anything, and any military that you see is for your protection as well as to demonstrate our resolve. So, dude, it's just like, it's so exciting because, again, the likelihood that the number of seconds and the message that they give you and then the post that it corresponds to, that this could all be coincidence, I'd say is next to nothing. They're so intelligently woven. They pick certain posts on purpose, and it's the same ones that we keep getting. So it's like, yeah, this is not a joke, you guys. This really is going to happen, and it could be very soon. I mean, remember, we have deadlines coming up from the 20th through the 28th. That's starting this week. So very, very major events could be right on the verge of happening. We just don't know how it's going to play out exactly yet. So now they're coming out with lab-grown salmon. San Francisco company unveiling it. It was grown entirely in a lab from the forefront of emerging technology called cell-cultured seafood, and they say it's as safe as traditional fish. Well, if you want to try it, go ahead. I probably won't. Anyway, post number 235. Where is he? What is the purpose? Who fired and when? Isn't that interesting? I'm not really sure what they're trying to get at with this. It has to do with the fish somehow. But again, it's all prognosticating the arrests. This probably is Dubai. I'm not sure. Does anybody in the comments, do you know where this might be? Somebody said blue chemistry may refer to methylene blue. I hadn't even thought about that. It's funny. So do you guys know? Oh, it might be Japan. You're right. Okay. Yeah, it probably is Japan. I hadn't even thought of that because that could very well be Tokyo. So there it is. What is the purpose? Who fired and when? I don't know what this means, but sometimes it's a little bit mysterious, but for the most part, it's very, very consistent. So then we see he's activating the troops. That was a big part of this week's news, right? U.S. military activating hundreds of National Guard under his orders, still deciding how many troops will be sent and what their mission will be. Wow. Now, this is something they haven't really telegraphed too much before, so this is quite provocative that there's a survivor claiming he is alive, and she saw him in Florida. She was talking to Ryan and said that he is still alive and claims that they are untouchable. She saw him in public after he supposedly disappeared. Now, why would they tell us this if it wasn't true? And again, there's lots of evidence that this is actually what's going on, so I find it very fascinating. And we have post number 106, which we've seen a bunch of times before. So we're going to zoom in on that. It says they cut the feed trying to shut him down. Remember what they said? They were waiting for this. Whatever is happening now. That's right. So the arrests are getting ready to happen now. Nothing is a coincidence, they say. So again, look at this in touch of the number of seconds and how they're giving us this message. We are at war. Saudi Arabia cut the strings. They are scrambling for cover, using any means necessary out of the remaining power and control they have. Now we're seeing curfews being ordered in these various neighborhoods. So again, this is exactly what we were told was going to happen a long time ago, that it would end this way, and now we're at that point. Curfews across several neighborhoods throughout that area, triggering a rarely used 1973 Home Rule Act, placing the city under direct federal control and deploying these troops throughout the capital. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we are going to take the capital back. Wow. That's much deeper of a statement than most people realize. So then post number 58 is the one that I really can't read because it's got too many keywords. But again, it's talking about this collusion that they have with Islamic people, and that's going to be a very big part of what we're going to learn as this all comes out. So again, we got to skip that one just because of the keywords. But now we have Maxine claiming that this is all leading us into a civil war. And she blames his stance on various things, hardline policies, for this happening. They would love it if they could get that, but that's not the way it's going to turn out. Post number 18. This is another one that, it shows up a lot, but it's not one that I get as excited about. It's just talking about these two different politicians and how their money that they gain is much more than they should have had as a salary of a career official. And then the surgery was fake. Well, why would this occur, and what could it prevent? It could prevent him from potentially having to be held accountable. He could say, I don't remember anything. So that's what that one is about. It's all going to be part of how, it's talking about how individuals are trying to set up their own alibis and that kind of thing when the final moment comes. Then we have this actress claiming that these voters should be banned. They should be banned from various restaurants. Oh my God, what? Isn't that crazy? As long as they're of a certain denomination. They should only be allowed to dine at Cracker Barrel. Well, she must not like Cracker Barrel. She adds that the people who support him should be excluded from any multicultural experiences altogether. Wow. Coming right out of showbiz. I don't think most people would agree with that at all. It's a pretty wild, radical view. They say, please add these crumbs together in a new graphic. It is critical to understand and review. Everything that you are seeing is staged and deliberate. Once again, we're in the plan. They're doing the final stage of the plan here. It's all building up to something very exciting. Then we're talking about Adam, and he had over 3,500 pages of stuff that he shouldn't have. This is from Scalise, saying that these were all obtained fraudulently and that it was intended to target people in the press and even other lawmakers. that it was selectively leaked for what he called treasonous gains. So that's all, they're setting up the stage in Congress for some very big reveals that are going to be coming out. 55 seconds. My fellow Americans, the storm is upon us. There you go. Then we see in this new film called Weapons that there's apparently some very predictive programming. Has anyone seen it? Telling the story of these 17 individuals who vanish at exactly 2:17 a.m. That's 2 iterations of the number 17. Isn't that weird? A lot of symbolism and predictive programming here. Well, you're not supposed to use Times New Roman as your font for a movie. I'm kind of surprised they did that. It's just like, wow. That might not be Times New Roman, but it's a serif font. It's like, I don't know. Not really the best choice of a font. But anyway, this guy had a lot of stuff to say. I'm not going to read it all out loud, but he gives you a deep dive into the covert themes and truths that the film encodes. This was the most helpful one that I saw because I haven't seen it. He said the emphasis on these 2 numbers is not arbitrary. It's a frequency numerological code tied to soul contracts, ritual timing, and covert windows in these elite practices. The plot reflects real-world concerns about various things, including programming and extraction. The movie serves as a psychological primer, conditioning our awareness about covert activities, while also embedding acceptance and normalization. Characters are embodying archetypes related to victims, insiders, spiritual warriors, revealing and mirroring the multifaceted nature of these hidden ops. So then the narrative parallels documented but suppressed operations, and the precise timing aligns with calendars and energy vortices where ritual, I don't know if that's true. The movie encodes details about programming and identity conditioning, highlighting how victims can be psychologically fractured. The film acts as a veil for exposing hidden programs, maintaining plausible deniability as fiction, preparing your subconscious for future disclosures about these atrocities without triggering any overt panic or disbelief. Embedded symbols are messages for those in the know, guiding their awakening and resistance strategies. Broader network of films, media, cultural artifacts, collectively reinforcing hidden narratives in different layers of society. It is much more than a thriller. It is a coded message conditioning tool revealing layers of these things happening, all hidden beneath symbolic storytelling and precise patterns. There you go. So it's both giving you the truth and also disguising it. So next we have the police chief in D.C. who somehow says, what do you mean chain of command? That's pretty wild. Her name was Pamela. Embarrassingly revealed she doesn't understand it. Said, what does that mean? She was quickly pulled aside right after. So again, you can probably see what that's about. Just people that don't really have the level of knowledge they should for what they're doing. Post number 27, not everything can be publicly disclosed because so much ties back to foreign heads of state. Much will be revealed, but we want the transparency, but not at a cost we can't recover from. So then we have Alex, who calls his father the GOAT, which supposedly means greatest of all time, but, who else? What else could that be? That's probably why they posted this. They're looking at the deeper implications of what that means symbolically. Okay, next, we find out from Representative Comer that this individual is going to actually be brought in. The prime suspect. He won't be able to escape this time. Bipartisan support is going on, and he will be brought in. So that's pretty crazy. That's going to be a big one, won't it be? So then 1 minute and 6 brings us to post 66, where they're saying that the president is under attack by our own agencies. That's apparently true. They say, yes, the company just attacked him, and it was immediately detected by the military, and he was alerted. What does this mean? What actions are immediately occurring? If this leaks, you'll have your verification ahead of schedule. So they don't want that to happen. They don't want it to get to the point where said individual bill is brought in. So they're going to do everything they can to stop that from happening in advance. But again, the Alliance works on surprise, disinformation. Is it going to happen that way? I don't know. All right, so close your eyes if you don't like to see nasty shots, but this is a rabbit infection. So here, again, close your eyes if you don't like to see this, but bizarre virus is turning them into grotesque horned creatures with black tentacle-like growth. Sightings are rising fast, causing tumors to develop on or near their heads. Again, warning people not to touch these infected rabbits. Close your eyes again. Here it comes. It's really gross. Okay, we're back. This is where we talked about the vision of something greater. We heard that part before. He's on a historic and spiritual mission, presenting a map of the promised land that stretches beyond their own country. Oh my goodness. And he deeply connects with this vision. Well, that's basically a war strategy, right? It's like a frickin' military strategy. So, wow, not very good, huh? Not very good at all. And then we have 48 seconds leading us to post number 48. And this is another one that, not as exciting as some of the others, but still important. What does this clearance specifically refer to? Department of Energy. Who would have the goods on where certain materials are being sent? Does that letter state that someone's in the Department of Energy? No, because it's military intelligence. Does it refer that someone dropping this information is the highest level of security within all departments? Yes. So again, these briefings come from the very highest level. Why is this relevant? Because they're telling us what they're going to do. They're telling us about the arrests. And then they never thought they were going to lose the calm before the storm. And again, it's all very interesting stuff. So now we have this white rapper who claims that his mother was abducted by ETs, and they're saying that this is part of the negative script. He says he might be part, so they're trying to discredit the people who are doing it for real, like me, He's trying to say, oh, I might be part alien, my mother was abducted. I don't even know my real age or any basic facts about myself. They say, expect more celebrities to crawl out of the woodwork with equally bizarre claims. It's part of the script. Now, does this mean that all of it is fake? No. Doesn't mean that it's all fake, but it does mean that they have to seed in disinformation so that people laugh and that they don't take it seriously, so that when real people like me come out, that they get attacked, and that's the whole point here. Okay, so there he is, and we got 228, that's post number 148. The article released today regarding us is a direct attack about what is being dropped here. Read between the lines. Why was it published today? Well, again, they're setting up this abduction narrative to try to discredit it when it comes out for real. The president has been briefed. New measures are active and in place. Update the graphic. So then we have 47 telling him that it's inevitable that you're going to have to give up territory. Here he is right after a call with the president where he told him and European leaders that this would be an inevitable step. Obviously, he's not very happy about that, but we're going to see this peace come about. Post number 27, not everything can be publicly disclosed because so much ties back to foreign heads of state. Much will be revealed. We want transparency, but not at a cost we can't recover from. So you're probably not going to get everything. You're not going to get all the answers. It's going to happen differently than that. But again, I'm just very excited about where the future is taking us. This was very, very fascinating. One of the real highlights of the week, Representative Luna is on Joe Rogan talking about interdimensional being, a congresswoman, saying that interdimensional beings are real on the biggest talk show in the country. Bigger than all the other media combined, really, is what it is. This is quite fascinating. She told him that the U.S. government has confirmed the existence of interdimensional beings. So now they're saying, yes, there is something real, because they just dissed alien abduction, right? But now they immediately come back and say, no, wait. Interdimensional beings are real. I mean, and I know they're watching this show. I know they're into the Michael prophecies very much. So, confirmed the existence of interdimensional beings capable of moving through our time and space and wielding energy technology far beyond our human comprehension. She's personally seen evidence proving that quote-unquote spaceships are real and believes they weren't made by humans. So obviously they're telling you this because it's true. And they're setting up that big reveal that's going to happen in the future. It's very exciting. According to her, some of these encounters date back to before the time of Jesus Christ. Wow. And the government has reverse engineered parts of their technology. So this is all part of the disclosure, folks. Very, very cool. 2.6 million views shows the level of interest this has. So then we got post number 195. What does it mean to be covered in gold? Could you locate another pic with the head covered in gold? This is all talking about, the covered in gold is definitely a symbol of extraterrestrials. When your head is covered in gold, It seems to refer to the activation of the light body, this visible aura that's around these beings. So again, the fact that they would talk about being covered in gold, photographed covered in gold, this is like the DS's own way of emulating what people saw from these beings, that they are in fact, you know, golden light that they're giving off. It's a very interesting connection. Then we have Representative Solomon, who's exposing this foundation. Tomorrow is going to bring bombshell documents exposing their corruption, a detailed timeline of how they blocked these people from pursuing an investigation that would have led to these things happening. He says the trail to watch is the money that flows in. So again, it's all being set up for really big stuff. 500,000 views, post number 62. I highly recommend you take all these crumbs and put them into a massive single dump. And again, this is going to become the biggest inside approved information dump in history. They are beginning to understand. His attorney was just notified. That's very, very interesting, isn't it? So this is all gonna happen, folks. Then we have Lindsay saying that God is going to punish us if we don't support this country. If we pull the plug, then God will pull the plug on us. He's frustrated with growing calls to abandon them, says he's done listening to the talk of this, insists they are not the villain, but instead the hero in the fight. Well, that's typical of what they like to do. And again, post number 117, when we're talking about he doesn't want us to abandon this country. Why was this mass arrest in Saudi Arabia important? Well, because they were financing these people in America. We heard about this many times before. And the President of the United States of America is reading a book that it was actually against us. That's really strange, isn't it? How are these people connected? Well, they had a financial relationship. We entered into a war after 2001, and there was purposes and disclosures given that were not real, and classified releases being openly announced. What does money laundering mean? The single biggest event that could generate many nation states to pay billions, that would be a war, which is what we saw after that point. Auditing where the money goes, $15,000 for a toothbrush. But again, I think the real point here is this: the single biggest event that can generate many nation states is war. This is really crazy, and kind of like they got a little bit too close to the truth here. This chemist is saying that he wants all of us to become allergic to eating meat. Wow, can you even believe that? We could become genetically modified and then develop this allergy, and then in the process we slash emissions and help fight climate change, arguing that we simply eat too much. Was anybody going to sign up for that? No. I mean, thank God it hasn't happened, but wow, can you even believe that somebody would come out and make these claims? It's unbelievable. Post number 64. I'm being advised that actions create accelerated counteractions. We have not yet ascertained the scope of the attack. The Twitter takedown was not by accident. Should the lights go out, please know that we are in control. Do not panic. We are prepared and assets are in place. That is another, again, right as they're talking about weaponizing meat and everything, they're saying that the arrest could be very, very soon if the lights go out. The alliance is in control. It's wild stuff, isn't it? Then we have Hunter, and he's saying, no, I'm not going to apologize, whatever. He shot down the demands over his claim that this introduction was made through this individual, and he says it's not going to happen. I don't think that's really true. It's just more of the disinformation. He's being very defiant here. And again, remember, this is the one that says that the wizards and warlocks, there's more good people than bad, the wizards and warlocks, which is their alliance term for themselves, is not going to allow another one of these people to control the country. All of these individuals are controlled by 3 families, and now they're talking again, prognosticating indictments that are coming. And the corruption that will come out is so serious, they must cut deals so people can walk away. Otherwise, 70% of those elected would be in jail. You're already seeing this begin. So that's a very important point here, folks, because it means that not everybody is actually going to be held accountable. You can make a deal. A deep cleaning is occurring. The prevention and defense of pure evil occurs on a daily basis. They never thought they would lose control. Then this guy has a very unfortunate, looks like a drugged out psychedelic meltdown of some kind. South Carolina's Democrat candidate for governor was arrested wearing nothing but underwear. He was cursing. He claimed that he could be both God and Superman. His eyes were extremely bloodshot and highly dilated, so that suggests psychedelic drugs. So probably best not to be messing around with that stuff if you're a politician. You lose control of yourself, it's really bad. So post number 90, he said, okay, we need you to come back and confirm. And they said, confirmed, this is classified. And again, they mentioned her name. So then the California governor is accusing him of trying to set things up in the future for his favor. He released an urgent video to millions, says that everything is being set up that way. The video was shared by Alex and says it's a 5-alarm fire for our democracy. He's now demanding a special review to redraw these maps as part of an emergency response. Well, he's trying to get the base riled up as much as they can. So then we have post number 73. And this is another one of the ones that, you know, has certain levels of relevance, but maybe not as much as some of the others. They can't get every single one to be as amazing as all of them, but the tweets being put up and addressed, being taken down. Why is it taken down? So they might try to take his social media down. That could be what this is prognosticating. Why did he have military guards in Hawaii? That's because of the alliance. Do military guards typically assist Secret Service? No. And then again, what flying object was recently shot down? It's a nod to the UFO thing they've also been telling us about. So then we have this massive bust that took place in LA, which is a very good thing. Arrest of multiple members of a Hoover criminal gang. And they say that these people were being hunted, and the traffickers are now facing up to life in prison. So then we have post number, and again, I took these pictures soon after the images came out, so the hit counts are now a lot lower. And once again, they say, my fellow Americans, the storm is upon us. Wow. Next, we have the discovery of a massive room containing burn bags and hard drives from former leadership. It was hidden and locked away in the Hoover building. That this type of a bag is a government-issued container specifically used to wipe out anything by burning it. Wow. So they found that, and who knows what we're going to find in there. It's probably going to be very exciting stuff. 99 seconds brings us to this one. Who was arrested in that country? Well, it was a mass arrest. It involved, like, I don't know, it was well over 100 people, maybe 200 people. It all happened at once, and they keep telling us what happened over there is going to happen here. It's going to happen again and again. Who was killed? Who fired? Who really fired? Why would we fire? That implies that the alliance was actually involved in that country in making sure that this worked out. And they had to bring us to peace. That was a very important part of the whole thing. Follow the money. Who pulls the strings? Open season on the puppets. And the puppets are global. And it also involves the media. So just pretty wild stuff altogether. You know, we're looking at this from every angle, and we're seeing how all the dots connect. It's very, very fascinating. Then we see symbols in the background as he's on video. And remember, they are forced to do this. It's part of he was on a Zoom call, and there they are, that you can see that stuff in the background. And he joined them in their fight against what he called an assault on democracy. So I want you to look at this up close and see there he is. And then on the shelf behind him is this thing that looks like a bowl or something. And then when you compare it to these other things, sure enough, it's the same stuff. So it's kind of amazing. Like, if somebody doesn't want to believe this, right, is that a coincidence? Probably not. It's very intense, isn't it? We're still at 4,000 viewers. Thank you guys for being here. So then she's going to back him for the Nobel Prize if he ends the war. Again, it seems like she's trying to get herself in good graces while there's still a chance. If he succeeds in bringing peace to Russia-Ukraine, she is going to back him for a Nobel Peace Prize. And then notice the hand gesture that she made in front of this audience. Interesting, huh? So yeah, she's trying to save her own butt right now. And it says right here, they cannot lose the control over the population. At some point, the Great Awakening will occur whereby false local and national leaders will be exposed as corrupt and paid off. So this is all going to come out. I mean, it's very, very interesting. And then it says through the looking glass. Well, the looking glass is the technology that allows you to see into the future. It's a UFO-based technology. We'll talk about that in my upcoming course next week, The Great Awakening. This is a very, very exciting time to be alive, you guys. Then here you've got Z saying, oh no, they have no interest in peace. An urgent warning to the world saying that they're continuing to kill. They don't really want to end anything. His comments coming just ahead of a summit. No order or any signals that it is preparing to actually end this. That's his own effort to try to stop it from happening. Obviously, that's what I believe. And then we have post number 81. It says, when big news drops, this is one we don't usually get. 81 is a little bit unusual, you know. So when big news drops, please reread the entire graphic. So obviously big news is getting ready to drop. This is so critical in why information is provided in a certain order and why some topics are continually emphasized more than others, as those will be the recent happenings. This is the purpose of our new thread, Reorganize, Snow White, Wizards, and Warlocks. So again, they're telling us, obviously, big news is going to drop. Does this mean it's going to be a peace treaty? Who knows? I mean, I have no idea. But I'm very excited about whatever is going to happen. Then, at the exact moment that they meet, there's these overflights of jets. This became the poster for our event today. B-2 stealth bomber, there they are in the sky after the first photo. B-2 stealth bombers were spotted flying over at the exact moment they met on the tarmac. He must be extremely nervous right now. This doesn't seem like an ordinary meeting. What are they really saying here? I think there's something much bigger going on, and we're really now being navigated right into the final stages of this. It's extremely exciting, to say the least. 11 seconds is the video length. There again are the jets. Post number 11. This is military intelligence versus other groups. And under certain articles, military intelligence actually has the ability to come in and step in. Conditions must present themselves, and they lost this very important power. The military is not corrupt, directly serves you-know-who. So again, very interesting layers here. It looks like we're at the end of the game. It's all being navigated into position. Michael's time loop is telling us about this every week. It's been going on for quite a while now. I've been doing this for a year, and the excitement is brimming. I can really feel it. Then they say he's already fed up with the fake news. Look at the funny look on his face as they, they zinged him, I guess. I didn't watch the video, but somebody in the media zinged him, and he's just fed up, and that's a very funny face that he made. Post number 18, we already saw this one about how politicians have more money than they should. He said the war wouldn't have happened in 2022 if said individual had been in office. Wow. He declared that if this had happened, if he'd been in office at that time, it never would have happened, that the administration flat out refused to negotiate with him, thus bringing it to a crisis point. And he revealed that he and 47 have forged a strong business-style alliance. Well, that's great. So post number 58 is the one that, again, we have to skip due to too many keywords. Clearly, this connection of Islam and everything else is going to be huge. And this is the second time we saw it today, so you know what my stance is on this. And now they're saying, oh, you can get this one at home. I would say, yeah, no thank you. You can skip the doctor's office, dodge the line, and even avoid anything. They have a new program that you get it at home, and it goes directly to your door. Rolling it out in 34, look at that, 34 states this year with plans to expand. And they're saying, oh, don't worry, it's all going to be fine. So again, that's another allusion to this post, so they obviously want us to read that. My fellow Americans, over the course of several days, you will undoubtedly realize we are taking back the country, and we have initiated certain fail-safes to safeguard the public from primary fallout that will occur at this point, which again, that's the DoD law of war, talking about enemy occupation, because people are going to be arrested, as you see right there. Confirmation will then be revealed. So we are going to learn the truth. Finally, after all this, it will not be openly accepted. That there are going to be people going out on the streets in serious numbers to try to stop this from happening, but I doubt that that's going to work. On his order, there will be temporary control, special operations. There are false leaks that they made so that people can't get out who are trying to escape. And everybody's safety will be protected in full, but the atmosphere will be divided because so many people have fallen for this evil narrative. We will initiate the EMS during this time and provide direct messages of video to all citizens. So that is so exciting. Anybody that tries to harm them during this will be met with swift fury. Laws have been lifted to provide the military necessary authority to handle these operations at home and abroad. Wow. I mean, once again, it's just like the excitement is brimming. You know, they keep telegraphing this. And I know you're probably tired of waiting for it, but man, all the cherries are lining up on the slot machine like never before. Post number 199. Identify their symbolism, which is the owl or the Y, I guess, which is probably talking about like a horned goat or something. Which performers and celebrities supported her and who performed. Again, they've got jewelry, they've got tattoos. They use these symbols, celebrities, politicians, powerful people, and groups. And it says the need for symbolism is going to be their downfall. We're all going to learn about this at some point. They push conspiracy theories and institute new rules to shut you down. And then part 2, how were they adopted into this group when they were kids? What were they provided to be loyal and stay silent? Were they brainwashed? And then this is interesting. All that you know to be right is wrong. This group actually runs the world, and it's all a fantasy land. The world is fighting back and destroying them. 20% of what's going on we're going to make public, 80% private, because otherwise the world would collapse. Isn't that wild? 40,000-foot view is again needed to decrease the altitude and avoid the level of conspiracy. This was necessary, so I'm glad to be helping. So then we have Brennan, and he's going into a full meltdown about this, saying that, you know, this is not what we think it is, da-da-da. He's very upset about it, even demanding the Secret Service sweep his vehicle, claiming that there was probably surveillance devices planted inside of it. He's trying to he doesn't want you to trust it. And again, we got the same one we already saw, talking about the arrest of him and others, that it was important. This was, again, the Saudi thing. We already saw this one, so we can kind of blow through it again. What is the single biggest event generating many nation states to pay out billions? Again, that's a war. So then, unlike Brennan, she's curiously positive. She's trying to set up a good future for herself, giving rare praise to the administration, pointing to the allies, boosting the spending, and Europe buying these things, claiming the new administration is a positive force, both for Europe and Ukraine. What is her angle here? Well, she's trying to avoid trouble. Obviously, that's what I would say. 72 seconds brings us to this one again. This is one we see many times. Go back to the post about everybody running things and that one of them was taken out, one of the families. Was one of them from this country? Yep, because that makes this a happening. I remember the phrasing not making sense, and then they say, very smart. Disinformation is real. Distractions are necessary. We had to start over there in that country. Then we do the U.S. Then we go to Asia and Europe. So that is very, very exciting because it's all happening now. This was kind of a sad one to see, that maybe they weaponized this on purpose. Screw worms in the meat supply of central Mexico. Ranchers are finding this burrowed into their cattle for the first time in a generation. Texas ranchers are on high alert, fearing that these parasitic flies could cross the border and start eating their herds alive. This could devastate the beef industry if it spreads north, risking billions in livestock, sparking major crisis. Again, I don't think this is going to happen, but this is just showing you the kind of stuff they're trying to do, and an attack on the meat supply. Hopefully this doesn't go anywhere, but it's definitely something to watch out for. Michael encourages us to stay positive. I'm going to stay positive on this, but it's important to know what's going on. Post number 227 is just a list of these faces. You can see some of the faces right there. All right, well, Somehow, we have managed to get to the end of the show here. We're at the 2 hour and 54 minute mark, so we can probably make this show a nice clean 3 hours. So again, it's been a very intense time, but we're all going through this together. We're all experiencing the ups and downs, the joy and the fear of this whole process together. I'm very delighted to be with you here. I hope I'm going to get a lot more sleep this week. I'm definitely very tired, so without further ado, let's go into our global peace meditation, you guys, because this is the end of the show, and this is what we always do. Now, this is a technology. When you guys stick around with me and meditate with me together, we're reducing, if we have 7,000 people, that's the number that we found out seems to work. 7,000 people in meditation together can reduce global war, crime, terrorism, fatalities by up to 72%. So it's important that we participate in this together. So without further ado, let's get this whole thing going. I'm excited. I hope you're excited too. What an amazing week we've had on this week's show, huh? Wow. All right, here we go. I'd like you to close your eyes, put both feet flat on the floor. Feeling calming waves of relaxation. Letting yourself feel the glory and the joy of this space of healing that we create together. Follow the path of your breath. Follow that path deeper and deeper into the silence that is always around you. This glorious, loving energy. Just let yourself breathe and stay in that space. Feel your body sinking into the chair, or if you're lying down, just feel everything becoming nice and heavy, but very relaxed. Feel the joy, feel the peace in this moment. Feel the promise of liberation of the planet, the promise that this is all going to work out much better than we thought. There's so much to look forward to. There's so much to be grateful for. We're all co-creating this healing together. Letting yourself feel so much relaxation. Living in the silence, breathing through the silence, breathing through the stillness, feeling that sense of peace, that sense of happiness, and really learning to love yourself. Just let go of all that shame, let go of all that judgment, let go of all that fear, and just recognize how much you are loved, how much these higher beings are here to protect you. Thinking about that dream we had today, this massive monster with tentacles that seemed so overwhelming, grabbing the ship, and then you run away to the house and it busts through the walls of the house, only to then turn into just an ordinary human being, like the end of Scooby-Doo. The mask is pulled off. Everything would have been fine if it wasn't for you meddling kids. It turns into Richard Simmons, the athletic trainer who's helping us get healthier, helping us exercise, take better care of our bodies, eat healthier. And then he gets zapped down to the size of an action figure. This horrible threat that seemed to be so overwhelming, that seemed like, oh my God, what are we going to do? How are we ever going to survive this? It's so big, it's so scary, it's so threatening. Remember, Michael said in an earlier session, malevolent creatures in your reality are exceptionally dull and can be easily brought down with a swing from my sword, which I wield in my hands. Something like that. So we're embracing the silence right now. We're just living in that peace, living in that stillness. Let yourself feel as relaxed as possible, envisioning this glorious living light that surrounds you, this beautiful white light that loves you, the pure Christ energy of the cosmos. Breathe in that pure, loving light. Breathe in that presence. Send that presence to the world. Send that presence to ease these conflicts, to ease these fears, to ease these distortions. looking forward to whatever it is that is going to happen, knowing that Michael's deadlines of August 20th to 28th are very soon upon us now. We're going into that Uranus-Neptune-Pluto conjunction on the 28th, envisioning the greatest possible healing, greatest possible peace coming out of this, and always remembering that we are the light, we are the love, we are the one infinite creator, and this is as it was, as it is now, and as it always shall be, and nothing and no one can ever take that from you. And so it is. In the name of Jesus Christ, we surround these works with light. We elevate it to the highest level. Now let's come on back to the room, everybody. All right. So Entangled just donated. Thank you very much. Vacapalo says, Alex just posted that the task force DOJ head, Ed, says he has been unleashed and is going to be doing indictments. You who hold on, ladies and gents, it is here. Very interesting message to get at the end of the meditation. We had another donation here, Cindy J, $50. Thank you very, very much, Cindy. Hope you guys had a great week. That's everything we've got for you this week. I'm just looking at what everybody has to say. Amen, love and light to all. Great meditation. It was one of your best. Says Paul Cannon. Chris J, thank you, David. Justin Walker, God bless. Walking Trees, arigato. One day very soon everything will change and there will be no more doubt, says Johnny. I do believe that. Psychically sending you prosperity, says Novak. Thank you, David. We love you, says Pamela Ferraris. The best is yet to come. Thanks for the great laugh, says Sarah Love. Kev the Tech. Amen. Thank you, David, for another great live stream. Thank you, David. God bless to all. I hope you liked the fact that we kept it shorter. I'm trying to do that now. It seems like it's actually better for the show in the long run. Daniela Rosenrod, nice meditation. Envision my body in the earth in white light. Thank you, David. Great show, says Jackie Baby. Serena Bella 111, and so it is. Thank you, David. Prince Royal, thanks for another show, David, from your Sunday family. I really appreciate it. I'm glad to be here for you guys. Sunflower Heart, thank you, everyone. Love and peace to all. Clenyo 2, God bless you, David. Frequency 963, thank you for all you do, David. Cosmos Baby, take a good rest, David. We're now 3555. Got a 555 in my concurrent viewer count. That's pretty incredible. The global change is close. Boy, the show is over already. I'm glad I made it in. Love you, David. APR 613. God bless you, David. Thank you for all you do, says Michael Larson. Amy Blankenfeld, 100% one of your best. I love your summer hours. Love and light to all. Sylvia, thank you, dear heart. I'm so glad I could listen. Yes, 3 hours is ideal. Lorena Lively, you're the best, David. Davy J.O. Weaver, love, light, peace, and joy of being. I will say it was a little bit sad for me. You know, Michael's passages weren't quite as big. But back in 1999, I was having no sleep. This week I had no sleep. And I do wonder if maybe there's a crossover between my sleeplessness now and my sleeplessness back then that maybe made the time loop a little bit less talky and chatty. But what we did get in the time loop was great. You know, he's talking about, he uses the name Don. He mentions the plan very directly. I mean, everything is good. So I don't know exactly what we're going to do with the time loop next week. I'm going to have to play around. Probably going to start working on that maybe tomorrow. Like, okay, where do we pick it up from here? Because there's just a lot of dreams and stuff that's more personal, but I will figure it out. I'm just telling you, there might be a little bit of we might need to like skip ahead from when I was so tired to when the readings start to get good again. We'll figure out how it works. Marcy Me 13 donated $20. Thank you very much. Celebrating your third super chat. And again, Winnie Hellebus says this was the best show of the week. Wade Woodruff, high vibrational people know that it's in our heirloom DNA upgrades. So we are going to be trying to get this product out to you as quickly as possible. Hopefully the Great Awakening will be ready for pre-orders at least next week. I'm going to be working with a launch team. We're going to get that out. It's going to be, again, all 7 of the Michael Prophecies books, the greatest hits from each one. Why did they say the year 2025? How do they talk about the Alliance? There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that unless you actually read all 7 books, which I don't know how many people did who ordered it, but unless you read all 7 books, you wouldn't have gotten all this stuff. So I really hope you'll come and step out and support us. Again, we're going to go through all of the top insider testimonies Area 51, off-planet bases, off-world bases, human extraterrestrials. It's going to be amazing. So I really hope you'll step up and help me out. If you do, it'll make my life a lot easier. We're looking at coming in around the $222 price tag. We used to do $333. I'm not sure if that's feasible anymore. So we'll talk to the launch team a little bit about that. But my goal is to try to keep it lower so that we'll actually do better on volume. But again, even if you hadn't thought that you were actually going to help us out this way, I greatly encourage you to do it anyway. I know it's a sacrifice. I know nobody has any money right now, but I really do need your help. I don't want to be living with no money anymore. It really sucks. You know, I saw that with my car battery going down and getting stuck out in the middle of the woods. So let's try to make it happier for your dear old daddy, all right? Thank you, everybody. C. Fabian, thank you, David. So much love and blessings to all. I love the shorter show. Dr. Amanda Noel just donated. Miles Irvin just donated $100. Ka-ching. I look forward to your live event. Shelley Watt, will you have the option of payment plans? Yes, it's not going to be right away, not for the first week or so, but we will do that. And again, the more of you guys can step forward, the more of a miracle this becomes for me. It'll turn my whole life around. I'm very fortunate that I've had certain donors who have helped me, but we really got to step it up. And would you take a DNA test to find out about your heritage? I don't think you can test for angelic DNA right now. But anyway, thank you guys for being here. We will see you next Sunday, barring any weird disruptions. And let's see how the week plays out. It's going to be very exciting. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. I have to be on the right angle in order to actually cut to blue. So here we go. Bye for now.